Okay. Okay, Bob, you take it away.
All right. Tania Pryputniewicz. Little preface to that. Writing runs through a spectrum. At one end, writers present precision knowledge, like in scientific writing. The spectrum then runs through nonfiction, which is like presenting informative writing, then through fiction, which is like presenting conceptual writing. And then you get to the other end of the spectrum, which is poetry. Now, Tania Pryputniewicz points out that poetry can be defined in many ways, most of which seem to define it as more emotion than information. Witness imaginary toads in real gardens, or quote. We might even characterize poetry as writing about pure feeling without necessarily regard for fact. How are you, Allison?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, Tania is both a poet, and she has published Italian books, including 2 poetry collections.
Do you speak
and
Italian?
A teacher of poetry. Oh, I used to. I lived there some years. She says
I didn't know that.
This
That's
is
cool.
a write and share. Yeah, and I lived in the Netherlands, Britain, Hawaii. Perhaps we writers from the other end of the
You've
spectrum
been all over.
can learn how to feel. Well, I was a naval officer for a lot of years. She asked each of us all over the turns you on to poetry. European area. With that, I'll turn it over to here now.
Wow, that's super cool. Which one was your favorite?
So much, Bob. I am so honored to be here with all of you. I do have
beautiful things about it.
Let me see if I can do that. You probably made me a co-host before.
I like one thing about one and another thing about another. I have made you a co-host.
Okay, let's see. It's
Totally fair.
Oh, it's
want to know
working.
where my favorite place in the world is? I'd have to say Pebble Beach.
My screen then?
Oh, I've never been.
I lived there for a while.
So I'm delighted that San Diego Writers and Editors Guild reached a couple months ago to me and asked me if I would teach some poetry.
You saw things going out.
I got to teach a 6-week course earlier that just finished a couple weeks ago. But this was really the first class we talked about me offering to you. And so I'm, brand new to this group, but so honored that you even thought to invite me here. So this is what we're looking at tonight.
Deer and all sorts
in your
of
relationship to poetry.
Just beautiful.
I wasn't sure if I was going to be introduced.
Man. Okay, well, I will have to put that at the top of my list then, because my friends and I are looking for somewhere to visit this summer, and we've been talking about different spots. So I'll have to mention Pebble Beach.
Came out during the pandemic in 2021, and that's much more of a workbook about how to journal to discover your own imagery and symbolism. And then the third book that just came out in December is The Fool in the Corn, and that's a memoir and poem.
Well, I'm also hoping some other
press.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I was blessed enough to receive an MFA from
I
the
don't see
University
anyone
of
waiting.
Iowa. I got to take my undergrad poetry.
We have
from
not
Davis,
been advertising the marketing portions of the meetings when we talk about if they're not on the website and they're not in the email, which is totally fine. I know how much everyone is doing. So I will probably, moving forward, just chat to see do we want to keep doing this? If it's not valuable for people, then we don't have to, or do we need to advertise it better? So that's, I have something prepared, but it can wait. It's not time sensitive, so
your heart and drop
no problem.
Me.
Well, I have never
my own relationship to poetry.
4 years or so, I've been a member. I've never
really begins the words, the sound of them. I wanted to share. This is a little tiny booklet. It's actually a book. There's a cocoon on the front for the reminder about how we, eventually turn into the butterfly inside of this little book. This was made for me by a dear friend and collaborator.
Hi, Sandra.
We make poetry movies together too, but she painted this. And then my father gave me some magic words.
As soon as I start talking, I see the message telling me I'm mute.
just as a playful reminder. when
Sandra,
come
I just
across
wanted to
phrases
say
or
thank
words,
you for all
I'm
the
sure all
amazing
of
work
you
you're
keep a journal,
doing on
but
the
this
website
is
and with
sort of
everything
like a
else. It is
tiny,
truly,
magical
I'm so
little
impressed.
thing you
So
might
thank
want to
you for all
make
that
one
hard
for
work.
yourself.
Well,
Put
thank
a
you
little
very much
tiny
for
pocket
appreciating
inside
it.
and just put some of the most inspirational and
It's a lot
beautiful
to
words
do,
that
and I
move
just wish
you
we
as
had
you go
like
through your
100
reading
more people
history.
involved, you know? It would
We
be
can
nice
become
if we could
writers
get
of
everybody
poetry,
some
but
more
first
help,
we're
but
readers,
we'll
right?
work
When
on
we
it.
fall in love with certain
Yeah,
phrases
this
or
last go
words.
around, it turned out
I'm
that
gonna grab one
that
in
Lisa
here.
had really done
This one is kind of
almost
silly
everything
for
that
fast
had
acting
been
words.
suggested. I just
Try
didn't realize
slowing
it. So
down.
I saw
It's Living
things
Tumble.
after the work had been done and then was trying to figure out what in heaven's name
So
he was
this
asking
idea
us to
around
do.
just even a
And
single
it's
word, I want you to just hang on to that
Totally
idea
fair.
tonight
Yeah.
as
That
we go
is,
through our workshop.
yeah, that's tricky.
With all the
This
people
is
that's showing
also a
up,
gift
it
of my
looks like we
father, the
need to
little
do a
tiny
little bit
typewriter with the
more
pencil sharpener. And in it, I
reminding
keep
people
Emily
that the
Dickinson's poem
marketing
number 1263,
session,
and I'm just
I
going
was
to
just
read it to
telling
you.
Allison, since I've been a
There
member,
is
I
no
never
frigate
saw the
like a
marketing
book
session with no
to
people.
take us lands away, nor
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
coursers like a page of
I
prancing
also, you know,
poetry.
But I
I
think you're doing
This
a good job,
traverse,
Allison. I
course,
don't think it's
take
due to you at
without
all.
oppressive toll.
well, thank you.
How
I appreciate
frugal is
that.
the chariot
It's
that
interesting
bears
because I've
the
noticed the
human
more meetings, because I've been doing these meetings for like more than
So
a year.
frigate is
I
a
was gonna try
ship
and
or
count
a
how many
boat.
months, but I don't want to
So
do any
I'm just
math.
going to read it again, and I'll
And
talk through
it
each line a little.
seems like most of
So
the people
there's
that are
no
coming
ship,
are the
there's no
same
boat, no
people,
frigate,
and a
like
lot
a
of their
book
questions are
to
like
take
really
us
specific about
lands
their
away,
own
nor
projects
any
and work.
coursers,
And I always feel
coursers,
bad because this
like
is
a
not the
page of
right
prancing
venue for that
poetry.
sort of thing. Like, that's not what the
This
space is
traverse,
really supposed to be about. It's
this
supposed to be more
journey,
general, like
may the
instead of
poorest
getting very
take
specific. So I wonder
without
too, like,
oppressive toll.
is
There's
this
no
about like what is the most valuable use of this
how
time?
frugal
So
is
that's
the
something I can bring
chariot
up in
that
the next
bears
board
the
meeting
human
just to make sure that it's
As a
good for
child
everyone.
growing up in Illinois with my father, he
Hello,
was a piano
Andrea.
tuner and a musician.
Hi,
We had
Sandra.
some years
Hi,
where maybe
Wilson.
we had less
Hi,
than other families
Bob.
around us, but
Yeah,
words
Bob hiding
Hi.
were
behind
king
board
and
member.
queen. Music was in the house. We had
Well,
when I was a teenager,
I
we had
think
one of these
being
Underwood typewriters
the
on the
host,
table that you
I
always
have to
hear
have
about
that,
writers
don't
having.
I?
It's perfectly fine.
But
I'm
this
You
is
just,
go put your
a
name
big
and
part
then
of
after that say board member.
joy.
yeah, you could do that. You can
Go to the
rename yourself to
library and check out
anything,
a whole arms
but
gallery.
Yeah, but I
There was
understood
no
that
cost. And the lands that
to
you could go
use
to in your
some of the
imagination, just
things
beautiful
like
and
to do
amazing.
the poll
So
or
I just
stuff
want
like
you
that,
also, as we're in
you
this
gotta
room together today, to
gotta
think
have
you,
board member in there.
you
Somebody
wouldn't
told me
you
that.
wouldn't be
those
giving
first
up the
words
board
that
member's
ignited you,
powers by
that somehow
renaming
grabbed
yourself.
your imagination and set
It's
Oh,
you
not
okay.
going
it's
on
not
your
the name
course
that's there
to
that's
where
giving
you
you
are
the power.
still
It's the fact
thinking,
that you logged
wow,
on
I have
first.
this story, this book, this poem I want to write.
And
Beside that is
I
a
at
little
least
tornado
remember
I bought
to
when I was in
log
graduate school in Iowa
out
City.
of I
There's
had to
also a
go
little
into the
butterfly
Zoom meeting
here
to get
that I
something to
keep
do
on there
something
to
else.
remind me that
And I had
whatever
to
the
remind
emotional
myself to log
stories
out
are,
of that
ups
and
and
then log
downs
into my
of
own.
life
So I didn't
itself,
show up as a second board
you
member.
witness and put yourself in the eye of that
When
storm,
I'm a board member for
you
ST
can
Pen, and
begin
when I do
to
that, I
write down
use
the
this
story of what
background.
happened
We
or
all
what you're
have
seeing
our
around
own
you.
Yes.
So
background
that's more looking
Yes.
at,
like
memoir
that.
or
And then I
narrative
just
Yes.
use my name
story,
here
and
too.
that comes into
ST
poetry
Pen
as
board
well.
member.
All the forms talk to each
I
other.
noticed that and took
So I'm
notes
just going to
on
say
the
that
other
for
day,
tonight, everybody in
thinking
this
that
room is
might
a
be
poet. We
something
all love
that
words.
we could
So
consider
we're all
doing.
poets here together.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that way, if anybody
So
needs help
actually,
with
let me go back
anything,
here.
I'll
So what I
admit
want
people
play a little, we're
or
going to play a little
help
game.
answer
Hopefully you have a piece of paper there.
questions or that sort
So
of thing.
throughout
Yeah,
our
it
time,
makes
I'll
it easy
stop and
for
ask you to
the
write down a
others to
word or
know
two.
who
So
the
I
board members
want you
are.
to think right now of a word
Yeah,
that you
and
love
because I have
just for
that
the
meeting, I
sound of
couldn't
it.
join the board of
And
STWG
if you can think of a couple syllable
because I'm on the
words
board
or
of
even
ST Pen.
3-syllable words, and just
Well,
write
I've
those
arrived
down.
at
And
ST
you
Pen
might
meetings
think of them as we're
occasionally as
talking
board
throughout
member, and there was
our,
one time when I got a
class
real fast
tonight.
message in the chat
I'll
saying,
give
"Who
you an
is this?"
example. When my kids just
You're
love
like
to
me,
say the
Sandra.
word
You're
bubbles.
everywhere.
That's one of
You're
our
gonna go
words.
to
And
publish. You
they
probably won't go to
didn't even know
Publishers
what
Riders
meant at
Live
the time.
meeting
Now
on
they do.
Saturday.
Nope.
You
Now
know,
they
the one-
can't.
See, I can't
You know,
drive
nobody
on
misses
the
an
freeway on
opportunity to
Saturday
say,
because
look,
it's
they're
so
on all
bad.
this.
To come to
Or
Oceanside to go
travel
to
and
Mission
see
Valley would
something.
take me over an hour.
Dodecahedron is another
And
one.
I'll be at the live meeting at PWSC at
Stegosaurus,
close in
all
the
those
morning.
Mhm.
dinosaur
be a
words are
really big
fabulous in
day.
that way. So
Yes,
just play with
yes.
me for a minute. I want you to just write some of those words down.
Yeah, I used
Take
to
2 minutes for
go down
you
to
just
San
to
Diego
write.
more often, but I don't think there's a day of the
Make
week
it
that there
list.
isn't tremendous traffic.
And you know, those of us who don't live
they
up
can just
in
be
that
words that you love
direction,
to
I
sound
mean,
like.
I have no reason to see the traffic. The only things I go north for are things that have to do with medical appointments. And those are scheduled so that they're like between 10 and 3. So I don't have to actually be in bad traffic to make those appointments.
Saturday is notoriously going south and Sunday goes north. So I'm going up to see my family on Sunday in Mission Viejo. So I'm going to hit the north going traffic on Sunday. So my folks used to live in LA, so I knew,
to share with you that we used to play. My
the
father
traffic
calls
patterns.
them
And to go down to
homes,
San
so that
Diego
it's not
on
haiku. There's
Saturday
no real form,
at
but
1
this was the
o'clock, it would
playful
take
thing
me
that
over
we
an
would play
hour.
with. And it's really just
So
listening
as
to
much
the
as I'd
sound
love
of a
to see
word, and then
everybody
you try to
live,
find a word
you
that's
know,
like it, but it
in
might have a
person,
different
I
ending.
should
It doesn't
say,
have to rhyme.
because you are live on Zoom.
Here's one example.
Live
Winnebago,
on Zoom, yes.
Studebaker,
But I've enjoyed the fact
Rutabaga,
that PwC is
Archipelago.
going in person every other month, because I'm in Oceanside, so
Second one is
Carlsbad's a
muskrat,
no-brainer for me.
musket, mesquite, and mesquite.
But we've
So
had some
that's
good
just
turnouts.
pure
there.
sound play and
We had the
listening,
IBPA speaking
just
last
listening
month.
to
and,
how
oh my God, the
2 or 3
the people
syllable
were
word
so
might
wonderful.
go with another
It's so
one,
much
and they don't necessarily have to rhyme.
information. I mean, the
It's just
last
a playful
in-person
little thing
meeting,
to think about.
you know, it was before they had the conference in Coronado.
Did you
So
go to
there's
the
so many
conference?
different definitions
Again,
for
I don't
poetry,
drive
and
south
I'm
on the
sure
weekends.
there you
Okay.
have
Coronado
heard
would
this
be even
before. If
longer
I
than
read
me
a
going
book
to
and it
Mission
makes my
Valley.
whole
That's
body
true.
feel cold,
That's
no
true.
fire ever
I didn't
can
even
warm
apply
me.
for
I
the
know that is
scholarship because they
poetry.
have a
I
scholarship.
feel physically as
Otherwise,
if
it
the
would have
top of
cost
my
me
head
several
were taken off.
$100
Yeah.
I know that is
and
poetry.
traffic
These are
back
the
and forth
only
for
ways
3
I
days.
know it. Is there
I don't
Yeah.
have
any
that kind
other
of patience to
that
sit
Yeah.
in traffic.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
where
Carl
that's where we
Sandburg has some
time.
different
I could be working, I could
ones
be
too,
reading,
but here's
be
one.
doing other
Poetry is
stuff.
an echo,
I don't
asking
like
a
it.
shadow to dance.
I went out to
Rita Dove
look
talks
after
about
my
it as
son when he
language
had
at
a
its
stroke
most distilled and
and
most powerful.
in
And then we
DC
have the one that
area.
Bob read
And
when he
all I
was
did was get
talking,
stuck in
introducing me.
traffic. It was
Poetry
like,
is
you
the
know,
art of
what did
creating
you do the
imaginary
entire time?
gardens
Traffic
with real
jams.
clothes. So
It's
we're
crazy
all
over there. They're not messing
building
around
worlds
Yeah, and they
with
they will
words,
not
and
build roads in
they may or may
ahead
not
of
be
time.
real.
They do it well after, and so when they
And
finish the
one of my
highway,
favorite think about
it doesn't
poetry is
meet
that
the
it's a
need.
transport, the
Yeah.
journey in words.
Well, I have to
And
admit that
when you
having
read
been
a
on the East
poem
Coast
that moves
first
you, it
and
takes
then
you
moved
deeply
out
into
here,
the sphere of
we
that
didn't
particular
find
poem
the
and that
traffic bad
experience.
here
And
at all.
something happens to
No,
us when we read the
it's
poem.
only just recently that it's
Interior.
become untenable.
And as the writer of the poem,
Yeah.
we are both
Well, they have
chasing
expanded
an
I-5,
experience
they've
and an
expanded
essence
lanes,
to get it on the page.
but
But
it's just
we're
TMC, too many
also
cars.
hoping that our reader can
Hey,
have some
Penny,
of that
come out of the
experience
coal bin.
when they read our poem,
Yes,
and
you're
that it's such a
completely
delicate
black.
dance of
And
allowing enough
on
space
a
in the
black
poem
background.
for
Oh,
any
it's
reader to
because
come
my
in and
computer is
be in
closed.
it and fill in their
I'm
own
sorry.
experience. So it's a
How do you
dance.
get
It's
locked
a
I didn't
little
want you to
dance,
think
and
I
some
died and I was
do
just a
it
disembodied
than others,
voice.
and it's a beautiful
That's what it seems like.
form of expression to explore. There's so many different
How
kinds
can you
of
even
poems.
be on
And
with the computer
There
closed?
you
this
are.
image of the poet.
You're still on the board. You can also rename yourself any
So
board
in a
member.
very simple sense, this is a slide that I use
Which,
Penny, you're still
writers
on the
of all
board, right?
ages, but I really love this
It's-
art
what?
by
which is
Octavio Ocampo. And
icon that
all
you
of us
go
as writers,
to
whether we're writing
control
poems
the
or
name.
fiction or memoir,
It's the 3 little
we're
dots in the
actually
upper
trying to
right
create
corner
some
of
kind of a
your,
picture through
when you
words
click on the
composite.
little,
We use
go
different
put your
tools
mouse
to do
over the
that.
upper right corner
Just
of your
like
little
here
box.
you see the leaves and the
And there's 3
flower and
dots.
the
You
mouth
click on
of
that.
the woman and the actual flowers kind of making
Penny,
their
we were
way
just
around
saying
the
that you could
flowers.
rename yourself if
So
you
I'm
wanted
just kind
Penny,
of using that
board
painting
member.
as a metaphor for what we end up putting together when we
Under
write
the
our
participants
poetry.
area?
And there's
No,
again
you
so
just
many
go
different
to the
tools.
little-
We wouldn't
Rename,
be able to
okay.
cover
Yeah,
all of them
rename, there you
tonight.
go.
But intensity of sound is definitely one where you're using the
Well,
same sound
I
to
do have,
start a sentence, and I give you
I
this
know we're a small
sing-song
group
childhood
today, so
one.
I do
Peter
have
Piper
the
picked
presentation
pickled
that I've
peppers, or
updated
she
about how
sings-
to find
she
your
sells
like
seashells on the
audience
seashore.
online. I don't know if
Obviously, there's
y'all
different
want to
levels
see
of
that
skill
or if you'd
poets
rather
use
just
around
chat about
that,
some
but
stuff.
often it's
It
I
seems
just
like
thought we
moved
could maybe
because
wait
there's
for
a
a few more
sound
people to
moving
come,
through
but
the
that
poem
sounds
has
like a
certain
great
emotional
topic.
tone that poets paying attention.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to ask
Or then
one
we have
question before you
comparisons and
start.
metaphors.
Yeah.
Here's one from Joy.
Um,
Joe.
Why do you
At
think
dawn, the panther of the
attendance is so low at 5:30 in the afternoon?
And then
Great
just
question.
all of our
Would you be
ratings, we
open
all
to
draw
some
from the
other
census.
shift?
That's just sort of a plum and sense.
Yeah, so I was chatting a little bit about it with Bob, actually. I do think it's cutting it a little close for work for some people. Now that I commute 3 days a week, if this was on Tuesdays, I couldn't do 5:30. So
even if you didn't,
part of me wonders if that is part of it. We don't do a lot of advertising for the marketing meeting. I mean, I don't on social, and I run social, so like that's on me. But like in the event descriptions, on the website, it's not normally included. So we could probably do a little bit more advertising. And then I think the thing that I've noticed is it's often the same group of people, and they're looking for some really specific help instead of just like some general marketing discussion. And this isn't really the space for like an individual person's like needs, right? Like we can answer questions, but unless I can see someone's like data, it's hard for me to like give that one-on-one support. And so I don't know if it's super valuable for the kind of person that's at like that level of marketing, and the people who maybe don't have any marketing experience who need the general stuff. I mean, marketing is very intimidating. Maybe they feel like they aren't at that level. So definitely something for us to consider, like, how can we best support people with their marketing stuff? Is this the best way to do it? Is there another avenue? I will say with my new job, because I am going to Vista 3 times a week, which takes me about an hour each way, which I love my new job, but I don't love all the driving. There are only some nights that I'm available. So if we want to talk about a different time, we could, but I mean, it's a little bit limited right now.
What if we had where it says marketing tips with Allison, and you had a title for what you were going to talk about? Because titles draw people because they see a benefit. Oh, she's going to talk about how to find my audience. I'm going to come to that. So because in the past with Leon, it was more general. So maybe people don't realize that it might be more specific. And so if you put a topic each time, I think that might draw people.
That's a great idea.
And Sandra, we could probably put that in one of our newsletters.
Yeah, and I mean, we can certainly put more in the event notice about it as well. Too many things at the same time. I've been trying to at least include in the event that for the Monday meetings that there will be a marketing support meeting at 5:30 ahead of time, but that hasn't really said anything more than that. One of the things I thought of that, who knows, that could be kind of a case study for how to do things for someone is to just take the anthology, for example, and say, these are the ways that we can market the anthology. And it can get into things that we haven't ever done, like spend more time on the categories and keywords. That's the one thing that Susie Schaefer's presentation pointed out. The A+ content, it's another area that we haven't done anything with, that we could do something with. And if we talked about it with the anthology as our example
tonight was to choose a poem.
Members should be able to kind of see how they can do that with their own works as well.
The Poet's Project was to choose.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
With sound.
If
and this was the poem
Allison started off with an advertised talk of just 5 minutes or even 10,
we'll have some
just
directions for how to play.
It'll get people focused and get them started. If it invites them to come in and then they start talking and asking questions, and it takes care of itself. The issue really is to lure people in. Once they get in, they always ask lots of questions and participate.
I really do wonder if 5:30 is a rough time to get everybody. I mean, I remember
set on fire.
Leon, when he ran the meeting, often had very sparse members attendance as well.
Morning toast.
So it's not you, honey.
Well, and just keep in mind, the reason it was 5:30 on a Monday night initially is that we met on Monday, and it was easier to put both meetings on the same day because everybody drove somewhere, and to drive there an hour earlier made sense. And,
Festooned with
and
peacock
so
plumes and
that's
swaddled
why
in
it
the
started out at
plumage of
5:30
my
on Monday.
happiness.
That's
I
doesn't
want
mean
to
that it has
stand
to stay
at the
that way.
perimeter of this plum
What,
luscious
and
earth.
I think you're
Think of
often
how
away
long
on
for gallons
weekends, so you don't want to do a Saturday, do
like a
you?
bird on fire.
Yeah, most weekends
Placate
I'm
all my
unavailable.
desires.
I can, but let
Hunger
me,
for the rightness
I will
of
go
my
ahead
sweet
and like take a look and like write out some suggested times if we want to
So
see like if membership
what
would be
Diane
interested in
did
maybe
was
some
take the
alternative
word
times.
plum
And then I can
she
also,
made lists.
I'm trying to
Words that
balance like
rhymed with
having a
plum,
presentation versus
words
just like
for
space
which
for
she
people
took
to
the
ask questions
first
and talk, because I think both are
4
valuable.
letters
So
and
let
came
me
up with as
outline
many
maybe
words
like
as she could.
1 month we do
And then she
this, 1 month
also
it's discussion, 1
wrapped
month we do
sound
the
units, the
anthology case
PL
study.
sound in
That way we
Nancy
can talk about it in
stare and
advance and
paid
see
attention to
like
the sounds
try some
throughout.
different stuff out, see if that
I'm gonna
helps.
ask you
Because
to
I'm
borrow the
chilling. I
format
just want to
of
help
this
people.
book
Like, so
and
whatever that
present.
looks like, I have no ego
She
about what
says
I need to be
here,
doing.
love
Like, I just
song
want to
with
help.
plum.
So I'll
Well,
outline some
And
things
what
and
I'm
then
asking you on
I'm
this
just
next
thinking
slide is
that
choose
if
your
you
own
picked
word
what
to
was
fill in the
convenient for
sentence.
you
Love song with,
during the week,
and you choose.
and we established it as a new time that
And
is
you might
separate
start with
from
a
the
word and then
monthly
go,
members
maybe I need a
meeting,
different word. Because when you start to make the list
that
of
if you did
words
it
that rhyme or
online,
near
you'd have
rhymes
better
or words that you
attendance.
did with the same letter,
And it
if you're
could
running
be, I just don't
inspiration,
know
maybe
what
you want to
hour
choose a
though.
different word. So I'm
5:30,
going to
we
ask
know
you to
he's
go
not
through
working.
these steps on
I don't know if it's
yeah,
5:30
choose
that's
a
not
word to fill it
working,
in.
or it's
And
just that
again,
we're
do you
not
want it to
plugging
be
it
a
enough.
flower, some kind of
I
object?
agree.
probably both.
I'd rather have them
But
the
we're
same
using
night.
Well,
words
We
from
all have
I
so
love
many
song
things
with.
to do and so many nights. I think it's
I
Make a
better to
think
list
have
that
that
rhymes and near
Leon
rhymes,
plugged it. I was pretty sure
words that
that
begin with
people,
the same letter,
but I'm not
and
sure.
then
I
play in the
mean,
same
do you
way she did.
remember,
I give you the
Allison?
example here.
He
Plum,
did.
plum,
I
plum,
will say the
Miriam
membership
plummet,
these days looks pretty different than when I
and
first
grab any of
joined.
the
So
2-letter
Leon did a great job
combinations
of
in
it.
the
I have
word that
not done a
are
lot of plugging
speaking
myself.
to you.
So I think it's probably a combination of things.
And we'll
Maybe
take
I
10
think
minutes
for the
to do
next
this
2
part of the
months for
exercise,
sure,
and then I'll ask
let's
you to
keep it at the
stop
same
and go ahead
time
and
and
see
I
if
will
you
do
can
more
gather up
advertising and
some kind of
sharing.
narrative from
We'll
the
see if
different
that
groups.
helps. And then if
So
not, we
let's
can
take
revisit
10
the
minutes,
time.
and you
Okay.
can choose to do any part
So,
of this
and in
exercise.
that
but
case,
you
I'll
can
reach out
Yeah.
to
right now
everyone,
you
but
have
Good.
to do all of
for the
it.
Yeah,
next 2
one
months,
thing,
Trying
one
to
thing
get
at a
some lists
time.
at least
yeah.
last time.
What if we had a topic where, and I know you said something earlier about you couldn't accommodate everyone, but
Now,
I don't
it's
think we're
back
getting
in 10 minutes
that
and
many
give you a
people. A
second
topic
direction
where
at that point.
everyone came with their specific issues. So I would say like, I published my book 2 years ago and I did this and this, what can I do now? So that you could help address people on their individual, because if people get individual attention, it really gives so much more value than something that's more general. And
What-
again, I don't think we have tons of people, and maybe you couldn't get to everyone, but at least giving personal attention to each person's individual book and their genre and what their marketing issues are would be really helpful.
I absolutely hear you. And I agree that that would be a great way to help. I think the problem with that often is that I don't have enough context. I would need a lot of information to actually give people like valuable feedback. And they would either need to do all that in advance and I would need to do a bunch of research, or they would need to do it in the meeting and it would take a lot of time. So I think we could find ways to do that that could be valuable, but I'm sure y'all hear often I get questions about like, is email better than social? And I'm like, it absolutely depends on like 1,000 things. So I would hate for people to come and like expect that I would be able to give them advice if I don't have the right information. But there are some things that we could do to address that. And also there are some ways that we could be like problem or questions about these specific topics that wouldn't need as much background. So that's something. Yeah, let me put that.
Say that this is my book. This is my target audience. What's your feeling about whether LinkedIn or Facebook would be better for me? You don't have to give me like an answer based on tons of research, but we could just kind of talk about it and come to a conclusion together, or other people could chime in if they've had experience with a nonfiction book on LinkedIn or Facebook. Because people seem to love Facebook, but I seem to think LinkedIn's better for my target audience, but I haven't had much luck with either. So, it's just getting other people's, I'm not saying that you're going to have the definitive answer for everyone, but when we brainstorm and other people participate, not just you, we can all help each other that way.
That's true. I mean, even just you saying that, my questions are like, get really specific about the topic, who is your audience, what are the goals on each platform. So I do think it's a pretty nuanced thing. But I wrote it down, so I will see if I can come up with a couple of ways to see if we can. Because I know that specific help can be really useful, even if it's just, like once a quarter or something. So I will add that to my list.
Well, is it possible, like, kind of taking what my idea was of doing it for the anthology, something that we all have some interest in, kind of on a quarterly basis, maybe sort of turning to people and say, well, this month, Andrea has asked me to give some tips and suggestions to her on the basis of her nonfiction book. So that's what our focus is going to be. And that way you and Andrea could work ahead of time to have enough in common context to kind of work with other people. I mean, again, certainly Andrea would be the one to benefit the most from that, but it seems likely that others could also benefit from sort of seeing the thinking that goes back and forth. What do you think, Andrea? Does that sound like it might work?
Well, I think anyone who has a nonfiction book will have, sort of a different marketing approach than someone who has a fiction book. Because nonfiction book, we know that our target audience is a little bit more easy to identify. Whereas fiction, who knows that I'm in my 70s and I read young adult, I mean, it's very difficult to ascertain specific markets for fiction unless you've developed a following, through Goodreads or something else. So I think if we talk about my book, for example, other people who are in the nonfiction category would get value. But I do see the benefit of talking about the anthology, because anthology is a very specific kind of individual. It's not, most of us have not written anthologies or published anthologies, but any marketing is helpful to anyone who's written a book. You know what I mean? Like for the anthology, and I love brainstorming. I'm just like a natural brainstormer. So if we talk about the anthology one meeting, and not every meeting, Sandra, but I like the idea, and then we can all participate, because I'm not on the committee to do anything with, because I'm pretty much overloaded. But if I have some ideas on how to market the anthology, heck, cool is that? And Alice and I have talked about me doing some posts, but I haven't gotten back to her on that. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to help in any way I can that doesn't involve, too much time. What am I best at? Blogs or, LinkedIn or something like that. So I like the idea of bringing the anthology up, because hey, we can all benefit from that. Those of us who are either in it, and because we're STWG members, we want sales. It really helps us all. So yeah, you have a few topics you can play with, Allison.
Write about it.
But I think brainstorming is really important. So, in other words, not just you lecturing us for an hour, but having some brainstorming. So then you don't have to feel like you have to know it all, for each one of the individual topics, because we have all had different experiences, Well, we've all been around the block.
How did you pick tonight's topic? How did you decide on tonight's topic, Allison?
Yeah, so it was one of the things that I'd gotten some, when I give my email out at the end of discussions or whatever, I had a couple of people ask specifically, like, okay, you keep talking about your audience, like, where do I find them? And then another topic that I believe I've said was like in 2 months from now, or maybe next month, they're in my calendar, is like events. So like a book signing or a bookstore event, things like that, how to market that, and how, like, what materials you need. And then I have another one, but basically it's just what people have asked a lot of questions about, that is got like some tangible things that are useful for many people. So hopefully they're useful, but it's just whatever people want to hear. So,
people have asked you, and you're just all right. So some people do approach you then.
Yes, and there are some people who have reached out and asked for like a lot of marketing help, and it's just so labor intensive and takes a ton of time. So I'm trying to find ways to make sure that I can help individuals while also, not spending hours and hours, because I would love to, but I don't have that kind of time. And honestly, that's something that if someone's that invested in it, they should probably be paying someone for that work, because it's a lot of labor. So, but happy to, like I said, like, obviously whatever I can do, like in a couple hours, I'm happy to do. So that's sort of where these topics came from.
Okay. I also talked to come on, Penny, Marty, so we're on the same page with you that you really don't have time to be attending the meetings. So it's okay.
Well, I have time to attend these meetings and some board meetings, not like tons of them, but
yeah.
That's,
I mean, for you made it up front that you're very busy, and coming to board meetings is kind of not the best way to use your time. And I think we should be trying to fill some marketing positions here, the assistant position, and Marty's on it. So
yeah, and I so appreciate everyone being really understanding about my availability, and everyone's been great to work with. So I really do appreciate that. So we can talk more about how to make sure that the time I have, because right now most of it's going to social in these meetings. So if that's what we want to continue to do, absolutely great. If we want to adjust, then we can do that too. So yeah, we can chat about that.
Okay. All right. Well, then you could do. I'm done then.
No, you're fine. This
took half of the meeting time. What the hell?
Totally fine. We're gonna blaze through this presentation, and then if anyone has more questions, obviously we can always discuss. And then I'll give y'all these slides because it's a lot of here's some very specific things to do. So should hopefully be useful.
All right, well, double time now. We're ready.
All right, here we go. Bob, do you mind giving me access to share my screen?
Let's see, that's under
the co-host.
Participant to no.
Yeah, give her a co-host. Make her a co-host. The little dot over in the participant list.
I'm not getting it on the participant list.
Okay, and let's.
Sorry, I was muted. If you put your cursor over the square that has Allison's face on it until you see the 3 dots,
just another
one of those should be to make co-host.
Oh.
Maybe you got to write a little bit about
that's another shortcut.
Great. How you encountered this particular
Y'all are good at
word,
Zoom.
even
I feel like
if it was
it changes every time I try to do something.
Or an idealized fantasy experience.
All right, so let me go
take
ahead.
the last 5 minutes just to go back through what you've written so far.
And maybe can y'all see
if there is anything emerging for you?
Slideshow.
Is there a line that you love? Is there a direction you feel like this group of words could head in?
So we're going to talk about finding your audience online. I've outlined specifically where readers are. So for nonfiction, it might have some useful examples, but not all of them. But I will say the process that I outlined in the beginning of how to find groups applies for any genre. So hopefully that's useful. And then Andrea, let me get you, I have some different resources for nonfiction, communities online. So I will send that over to you via email. But we're going to blaze through this. So if you have questions, write them down or put them in the chat and we will get to them. But first, some reminders, because marketing always comes with at least one asterisk. Digital marketing and advertising should be one portion of a larger strategy. Often, I chat with authors, and the only thing they're doing is being on Twitter, and they're not doing anything in real life. They're not doing anything outside of one channel, and unfortunately, with the way that the digital world works right now, that's not the most effective strategy. So just a reminder, this is one tool that you should be using, but there are many tools to consider based on what you're trying to do. This approach takes time. I wish there was an easier way to do it. Unfortunately, this process of finding the right audience and finding the valuable communities to be involved in does take some time. I don't know about y'all, but one of my favorite parts of writing is procrastinating by doing research. So here's a research project if anyone needs an excuse to procrastinate. And then finding your audience, some of it may change over time. So the people who were really, really using Twitter as their platform, unfortunately, with the way that that platform is turning out, they're having to adjust some. When TikTok started really picking up, things adjusted. So we normally recommend in my work for similar projects to revisit about once a year, just to make sure, like, am I still in the best space? Is this still the best use of my time? Don't be afraid to try new things. That's can be very scary, but also could be really rewarding. And then, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, it's so easy to get sucked in and to just like get stuck in the black hole of the internet. So try to pay attention to, you know, the return on the investment you're getting. Where is the best place to spend your time? How can you be really efficient? Because writers and editors have writing and editing to do. They don't have time for the internet always. So those are some of my quick reminders. And the first step to finding your audience is Googling it. And you're probably thinking, Allison, I know how to Google. And I'm glad to hear that, because some people don't. But truly, this is where I would recommend people start. Not only because you'll get some of the top results that show you what people want to see, but it gives you the like people also ask section, and you can get some great insight into like, okay, I've searched, you know, I have an example in the next slide, best mystery novels. But then in that section on Google where it's like people have also asked best mystery novels with a twist ending, best mystery novels of the year. You can get better insight just by exploring the top Google results. So definitely start there, see how it works, see what you can glean from Google, and then make note of the keywords you're seeing frequently. So keywords, if you keep seeing people say, when you Google and search murder mystery, people keep talking about twist endings, or people keep talking about like, you know, what's the one I see all the time? Like the word thriller seems to come up a lot. So you want to make sure that you're using thriller in your own content, that sort of thing. So
in your net.
Google, make sure you're paying attention to the keywords, and make sure you're paying attention to the types of content you're saying.
Read your favorite.
When you search sci-fi and fantasy, you get, generally speaking, much more like blogs, long form videos, there are maps, there are explainers, as opposed to when you search like historical fiction and romance, and it is much more
I'm hoping we have time to get from everyone,
like long form. There are a lot more like categories under there that fall under like, I don't know if y'all have seen the charts of like the 12 different kinds of romance, and it digs into each of those. So just as you're exploring, pay attention to what you're seeing and make some notes. And then using those keywords that you see, you want to search them again. So it's a lot of Googling, like I said, lots of research. So for instance, you can Google best mystery novels to start, and you will probably see some keywords like page turners, classic mystery novels,
this is kind of
murder mystery books to solve. That one surprised me. I was like, are there murder mystery books out there that people are trying to solve that aren't just like traditional fiction?
And what was interesting,
but apparently there's a book out there
that
you are supposed to solve it as the reader, and it's very popular right now. And twist ending was a big one. So as you're, you know, you're creating your own content, you're looking for people who are interested in your genre. These are the things you'll want to search and connect with and use in your own language.
It's large and it's blue.
So then, okay, you've made some keyword notes, then you want to search that again. So best mystery novels with a twist ending, and really just doing all the research to see like, what are people interested in, what is working, and under those different types of content, like, you know, are there a lot of blogs? Are there a lot of YouTube links? Like, what is the type of content that people are searching for in terms of format? Bob, did you have a question?
Fun and silly at the same time.
Once you Google
and you managed to come up with all of that in that short amount of time, that's
results
amazing.
that come up.
I love them.
What sorts of things appear, and what do you do with them?
And did you have a poem you brought that you love, or one that you want to
everybody except
you
me?
talked about reciting.
It's not. I promise it's not. I can't tell you how often I ask authors like what's happening in your genre, or tell me about a trend in your genre, and they have no idea. So certainly not just you. And again, I know it takes time and effort, so I'm not blaming anyone for not knowing, but yeah, so you'll want to make note of the types of
Singing in the
content you're
Court
seeing,
Village
so you know
Choir,
what to make.
and it makes his heart
And then
rejoice.
also for the
I thought that was
keywords,
nice.
you'll want to make a
Yeah,
note of
beautiful.
those so
I
that you
love
can
that you
search
went
them on
back
other
and
channels to
looked
find your
at the rest of the
audience.
poem.
So
It's amazing
that's,
how
you're
reciting,
jumping ahead.
learning, memorizing
Part of
brings
step
the
2
poem
is you'll
into
want
us,
to
and we
use
have
those
it forever like
keywords
that.
to
I love
then
that.
search,
Thank you so
like,
much.
for instance, Facebook groups or Instagram or Twitter, to actually find the people who are interested in that topic.
Who else?
Does that help?
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
Okay. I chose the
Yeah,
word
so
rose.
then you'll use those keywords to
I
explore
wanted
different
a
channels.
rose, so I could suppose you
Also,
loved
like
me.
I said, it's great
The
in
petals,
terms of getting a
soft and
sense for the
silky,
content.
the
That way you
thorns
know
of
like
no
what you want to
import
be making or
to
what
one
you
who
want to
loves.
contribute, what's
The
popular right now.
fragrance gently there
It's
could
I'm all
also
about not
pose as
reinventing the
love.
wheel. If
you
everybody in
loved me.
sci-fi is all about maps and there's an easy way for you to reuse a map you already have in your
Thank you,
book,
Rose. I love
absolutely
the
do it. Like,
question
you
in
don't have to be
there,
like,
and Rose and
I need to come up
pose.
with all original
That's
content
great,
strategies.
Ryan.
Find ways to make it work for
Did you
you.
also
Is
bring a
my 2
poem that
cents.
you loved, or did you have one you remembered?
So
No,
we're
I
going to use
didn't.
some of those
Sorry.
keywords to
No,
look
that's
at
okay.
channels, and we're going to start with some
Was there
channels
one
you're likely
you
familiar
loved
with, and then we'll
from
get into some ones
a
that I
certain
don't
time
often
in
hear
your life,
authors talk
or
about, and I think they're untapped
anything
potential.
When I was young,
Facebook groups.
my
I put
mother
in
had given me a book
fantasy
called
reader
101
in the
Poems.
Facebook groups
And
section,
it got very
and all
tattered
of
and
these were
torn,
the first things
and
that
I
I saw.
almost lost it. And then I
And
did lose
some of
it.
them,
And
about
and years
3,000
later,
members,
she gave me
8,000
a
members.
new copy of
That
101 poems.
what is that?
And I'm
Fourth one
just so
down has
touched that she
90,000
remembered
members.
that I liked it so much, because
So there are
I
tons and tons
reread
and
those
tons of
poems
these
every now
groups.
and then.
Absolutely,
I
like
love
most
that.
of them
Does
are
it
active.
have like
10 posts a
Edgar
day,
Allan
5 posts a
Poe's
day. The community
Raven
is
and
really there. They're all chatting with each
Just
other.
a lot
I will
of
say,
poems
because
by
this is a
different
reader
people.
group,
They're
you
Yeah,
do have to be
beautiful.
careful
they
about their
just
rules for like
touched
author
my heart, and I liked
self-promotion.
it. I like them.
Most of them,
I
it's
still
like
like
on
them.
Mondays you can post about your book,
I love
or
that
if the admins will put up a
aspect too,
post
when
that's like,
when a certain work
everyone
comes
share
into
your
our
book
lives,
and like
then
pitch it,
brings
and
up
that way
that
if
whole
people want to
time
read it,
period
they can
too,
find
right?
it. So
They're
you do
like
have to pay
anchors
attention. You don't
in
want to
that
just
way
like
that songs are, I
absolutely
think.
blast out your book.
Yeah.
If it's against
Thank
the
you
group
so much,
rules, you'll
Ruth.
be removed.
Who else would like to read?
And at the end of this section, I have some tips for like how to
I
actually interact with the
wanted to say
groups. But
something.
I really think
I
that
didn't
most
feel
authors
inspired
are
for the
focused
poem,
on
but I
their author
wanted
page
to
on
mention
Facebook,
that I was
and they
brought up
really
on
neglect
Dr.
Facebook
Seuss.
groups,
And
which
so
I
I
think,
always thought of
depending on
poems
what you're
as
writing,
rhyming.
could be a really missed opportunity.
And when I
So
was younger,
do
I wrote a
some
lot of
research,
poetry
use
and I
those
wrote
keywords.
music,
If you're seeing
you know,
thriller
songs,
readers,
and played the
search
piano.
that, find your
But
people,
after Dr.
and
Seuss, I moved
get into
on
the
to Ogden
groups.
Nash. And I want to read one
And then
of
there's
my favorite
Instagram,
poems.
which most people,
Consider
if
the
they
auk
have a book focused
becoming
Instagram,
extinct
call it
because he forgot how to
Bookstagram.
fly and could
It's
only
not very
walk.
original, but it works.
Consider man,
And
who
this
may
is
well become
really where you're going to
extinct
want to look at those
because he
keywords,
forgot how to
because
walk and learned how to
Bookstagrammer has
fly
more than
before he
17
faint.
million posts, which is great because in theory those people are readers.
And
But
I
are
love
they
the way
the right
these
readers for
lines
you?
didn't
Are
always
they
have
the
the
people
same
who
meter,
you
but
want
they
to be
always
speaking to?
rhymed.
So
Mhm.
romance
I
books
love
is a little
that.
bit more
Yeah,
I like
narrowed
him
down,
I
too.
still have my
right?
whole
But then
book
I
of
did
Ogden
search
Nash poems.
nonfiction reads,
beautiful.
and there's
And
still,
that, yeah,
1.5 million
Dr. Seuss
posts,
and music and all of
the
that
different
working
hashtags of
together.
like
And
nonfiction
I love
book
humor.
versus radio versus book
Beautiful.
club, things like
Thank you
that.
so much.
So you'll just want to search based on
I'd
those
like to
keywords you saw
go.
earlier and what you
Great. Thank you,
noticed as
Leslie.
you're reading,
So,
hopefully, the books in your
poem that I
genre.
brought was Wild Geese by Mary
There are some
Oliver.
Bookstagram
It is
accounts
one
that
of
have
my
like
favorites,
more
and
than
I
a
was kind of
million
struggling with this,
followers.
and so I
Many of
tried a
them
couple
are
of different
somewhere in the like
times, and I
10 to
ended
25K
up just
range.
using her
And those are the
form
people
because I
who
like how her
often have their
poem
email
moves
in their
from,
bio. They're totally
um,
open to
you
like
know, the
read a
beginning
free
is
book and
you do
promote
not
it,
have to, you do not
things
have
like that.
to.
So
And
there
then
are
she
some really
asks
big
the
heavy
reader to
hitters, but the community
me
on Instagram
something.
is huge.
And it,
People
you know,
love to
unfolds
take
into this
nice photos of books and
beautiful
share them.
poem about life and
My
meaning
best
and
friend
nature.
runs
And
a Bookstagram account, and
so that's kind
it
of what I
takes her a
did. So I
while, but she
chose
reads every book that someone
raspberry
offers
as my
her.
word.
And she posts
I
about
kind of
it and she
regret
talks
it
about it,
now,
and
but
she
here
got about other people. So lots of potential.
And I know that,
today.
when we're imitating, it's hard because
and then
we
we have
don't
book
want
talk,
we want
which
to emulate,
is a little
but we don't
terrifying for
want
some
to
people.
copy,
Understandably, TikTok
so
can be a little
this, of
tricky
course,
to
wouldn't
use.
stay like this, but it was
But
helpful
if
to
you'll
use it as
the tag book talk has 140
a
billion
poem just to
views
follow, just
with
to
a
kind of
B.
copy
That
the
is a
form.
huge number. So
You
if
do
you
not have to
if
taste
you
the
feel
raspberry.
comfortable making an
You
account,
do not
if you
have
want
to
to
let
find
its
someone who's
juice
comfortable
bleed
making an
onto
account,
your skin.
there are a ton of people
You
who
only have
are
to let it bloom
talking
where it
and
lives.
reviewing and promoting books.
Tell me about your
much more
mistakes,
than just like,
and I will
oh,
tell you
here's my
mine.
bookshelf. It's
And the
people are
bramble
like
will
detailed
grow.
reviews,
And the
starred
story
reviews,
of
the whole
sour
thing.
and sweet
And
wraps at the
again, there are
back
some
of our
great mid
throats,
and small
lining its
sized
red
accounts
berry
that are open
sugar
to
along
like,
the wish to
give me a book
speak.
to read and I'll review it. Like
And
they're
the
just looking for
soil and
suggestions.
sky
So
continue to
something
meet.
potential there.
The raspy wind
And then Twitter,
carries
like I said, the
scent of
platform's on the
raspberry,
decline. Part of that
sending
we can
memory
thank
across
Elon
the
Musk
land.
for. Part of that we can thank
Whoever you
the
are, no matter how
lack of
thirsty,
a policy
the
board
seeds
on their
offer
part. So
you
it's
the
really getting
beginning,
wild over there.
so you may
But
once
also, I
again
think
begin again.
many authors are using Twitter like it's still
Beautiful.
2014.
I
And
love
unfortunately,
what
it
you
has
did with
overwhelmed
that,
the
Leslie,
space
and the
in a way that is not
green and the
super reader
bramble and
friendly.
all the
So the author
senses
community is
and
thriving
using that
and great, and people
structure.
have really good
It's such a
conversations about their writing and other
beautiful
people's
thing to
writing.
do.
But in
It's
terms of actual
exactly
like
what I was
readers,
hoping
there
would
are
happen in
much
here,
fewer
is that
accounts
you
that
would
are
look
like
at
devoted
home
to
that you
reading.
loved,
And
and
also, if
then
you look at the
see how you could
hashtags, you know, I put in reading, and these were the first 2 tweets
use
that
what you
popped
so
up.
loved in
And
that original poem, right?
they're all
Mary
about
Or
author lists,
butcher
which is
it in
great.
5
They're
minutes.
full of hashtags, so
No,
they're
no.
trying to get everyone
So
read.
it's so
It's just not
amazing
a
that
great space
structure
for
of just
readers
simply coming
anymore,
right out and saying
unfortunately.
something. You do
Unless
not
you have
have
an
to be
existing
good.
following, in which
I think
case you're probably chilling. But
hungry for those
for
direct
most
statements.
authors, if they're
So
looking
that's
for a channel
a
to
beautiful
build, I would
poem
not
for
recommend
everyone
Twitter.
to try too, if you love Mary's poem.
But it
Go
depends on
ahead
what
and
you're
put
writing.
out the
So if you're
first
like,
statement
no,
that you
Twitter
want
is
to
the right
claim
space
that
for
you're
me,
so
Yeah.
then go
100%
for it. I
in
absolutely support
yourself.
that.
And then
Okay.
what's the image story that
Now we're
helps
going
us
to talk about
sink
some
into
channels that
whatever
maybe
that
you haven't
statement
thought
is
of,
that you have, that you
or
make, that
that
you
most
share?
authors I've talked to have not thought of.
Beautiful.
First
Thank
one is
you,
Goodread
Leslie.
groups. So you can absolutely have a
Anyone
following
else
on
like to
Goodreads as an
share?
author. People can follow your page and your activity. They can review your books. But there are literally thousands of Goodread reader groups, and they are very good about like tags and type of group. And you can get really specific. I'm a member of like
And you
oh gosh, it's like
share about
World
the
War
poem,
II
maybe the
historical
wording, some
fiction
of the
with
words you
like
write that
empowering
fell in
female
love
main
with.
characters. Like you can just get so specific, and people just are like, oh, here's a book in this category that I love.
I mean, I
And
could share the first one I
again, you
wrote
want to
is
make sure that if
really
you're an author, that if
weird
they have
and
any like recommendations
you
for
need,
author
you know, if you're
self-promotion,
looking
you're
for
following those.
more
But
ideas
I
to be
mean,
put
there
out
are more
there.
groups on
Sure.
Goodreads than
Right.
what
Nobody
to do
else
with.
wants
So
to. I don't want to take
would
time
recommend if
away
you
from
haven't checked them
anybody
out.
else.
There's also some really great beta reader groups. I found some
Go
good
ahead,
beta
Leslie.
readers that way.
Go ahead.
And then
Okay.
there's also like you can swap with other authors and review
Again,
each other's
the
books.
route I
So
chose, I
definitely, if you've
regret
not
it,
already
but
checked
I
out
chose the
Goodreads,
kumquat.
put it on your list.
And I
I
started
almost
with,
never hear
I
authors
have
talk about
eaten a
BookTube,
kumquat.
which
I
is the book side of
want it to
YouTube.
be less hot to try.
Bookstagram, Book
When I
Talk,
squat
BookTube,
to make
we
my
are not very
legs
original.
strong,
We're just going to stick book
tight
on
as a
anything
drum, rum,
and call
pum,
it
pum,
a
pum.
day, I guess.
It will
But
be a
anyways,
kilowatt spot
so BookTube
that becomes
is
a clean
huge.
thought.
It really,
To
really blew up
locate
during the
that
pandemic
kumquat
when we were
as
all
a
trapped
reason
inside. No one
to
had anything to
memorize
do. They were
an
like, I'm going to start a
eloquent
YouTube
low-key
channel.
and
Why
recent
not?
memory,
And the
to prize a
followings,
low-key, loquacious
generally
delicacy
speaking,
as
for
delicious
like the
as
popular
rum,
booktubers are
distilled
massive.
humdrum,
Some of
boiled
these
down to
views, I
motivation
mean,
in my living
what, that
room,
third
my
video
kitchen.
has
To breathe is to live.
526,000 views, and it's
Reach for
just,
that sour orange
someone
skin,
reviewing some viral books
rind of
that they got.
nutrition,
So
no bigger than a
certainly there
bite.
is a big
Oh,
community, lots of
kumquat, dear
followers.
citrus, come
And
to
then
my
I was
mouth.
like, okay, but let's talk about specific genres
There's
besides
so many
just the like
great
viral
words that you
aesthetic
arrived at
version
and
of
put
BookTube.
all in that same
And
sphere.
these
I
were the
love
top
it.
3 results
Kilowatt.
under sci-fi
Like,
books. If
that's
I literally just put
a
sci-fi books in the
fantastic
top.
rhyme. So I love the
And those still
distance
have
you
some
travel in
really
that
great
poem.
views,
Serious there too,
1100,
in the
50K,
middle.
Fun
all
just
that sort
to,
of thing.
let
So
it go. But then I was
this is a
like,
great way to
it's
find
just
people.
so silly, but
People
it's
comment and
a good
respond. They
exercise to
link
get
these
the
videos,
brain
so it's a great
expanding
way
and to
to find
get
some
out of your
community.
comfort zone.
This one,
Because
because it's
even
not a
starting
group,
with
it's
something like
individual
that,
channels. It does
isn't
take a
going to
little
make
bit
it
more
into
work, but
any
great way to see like
literary
what are
journal
people
or
talking
anything.
about.
It's just a
Can
good
you talk to
exercise and
in
kind
the
of
comments, be
getting
like, oh, here's my
ready
book, or like, I'd love to give you a
to
book,
do more,
or
to
brainstorming,
become
that sort of thing.
stronger, better,
So
more
lots of
practice,
opportunities
etc.
there.
So
And then for specific genres,
Anyone else want to share?
And then
either
digital
about-
meetup groups.
Sandra,
So
Very
back
reluctantly,
to the
but
pandemic.
I have to say that
tons
I
of
was
virtual
looking
book
for the
clubs,
poem
tons
that
and tons and
Leslie
tons of
said
them.
is
I'm a
her
part of two.
favorite, but I couldn't remember the
So
name,
lots
so
of
I
great
wasn't.
opportunities to
But
either
that's the
brainstorm with a
poem
book
I wanted to
club, get
pull
your
out
book
of my
to
memory
them, have
was
it
Wild
be
Geese.
selected as a read.
Anyway, several
And
years
the way that
ago,
you
a
can
group
find
of women from
some
an
specific
organization
book
that I'm part
clubs,
of did what
you
we
know, you
call a
wouldn't want to give
poetry
your
slam, which meant that, there were
fantasy
70 and
romance
80-year-old
book
women
to
reading
the raw,
poems
like, you know,
to
a
a
group that only
YouTube
reads
that we were
nonfiction or
recording
whatever.
that then
But
someone else put
there's
together,
some
and that
great
was my choice
filters
for the
for being able
poetry
to
slam.
find virtual
Anyway,
book
for
clubs
this
and
exercise,
meetups on the
I
site
picked
meetup,
Iris.
Facebook
And
groups. Again,
I
if you
don't
search
feel
like
I have
virtual
anything
book club,
finished,
it's
but
got
I
some great
at least
options.
started.
And then
So
Readsy actually has
they
like
mean the
curated
dawn of
lists
spring, the
of book
irises,
clubs based
purple,
on different
lavender,
topics.
golden yellow, with
And then they've
petals
got
like
like,
a
you know,
crown.
13
They
virtual book
rise
clubs
from
you
the
have to
still
join today. And
cold
those tend to
earth,
be more
breaking through
general.
to herald the
Those could be a good
arrival of
option.
spring.
So
And they
making sure
banish the
that
cold and dark of
communities that
winter.
already exist that are relevant to you, if you can get
Lovely.
a way to connect
I
with
love
them and
that.
share your book
Did
or
you
brainstorm
have,
or get
did
feedback,
you
that
make a
sort of thing,
list around the
to take
irises,
advantage
the
of the
word
groups that
iris, or
exist.
did you do irises?
I did Iris, and then
Blogs.
I ended up
These
with
are
a
a little
whole
less
lot of
trendy. I don't know about y'all,
now,
but I remember when blogs
I as the
were
pronoun, and then
not
verbs
brand
that
new,
start
but they
with
felt brand new. And
r.
everyone was
So
like, if you don't have a
Iris,
blog,
I
you don't
risk,
exist
I
on the
rise,
internet.
I rush.
And my blog from high school is probably still out
Those
there on the
things
internet
don't
somewhere,
fit
and I
into
should
what
go
I
find it and
wrote,
delete it
but at
because I'm
least
sure it's
it got me
embarrassing.
thinking.
But I will
Yeah,
say, in terms
beautiful.
of
Thank you so much for sharing
reviews,
that. Yeah, that's
there are
that
some
wild
book
geese.
blogs that do
Thanks
like
for putting
reviews
it in
that
the chat,
have
Leslie.
an unreal following. Like, people are
Thank you so much
devoted,
for
they have
sharing,
built their
even
followings over
reluctantly.
time.
Yeah,
Generally
I
speaking,
was
some
going
of
to
the
call
like
on you because
pillar
I was like, who do I know in this room?
book review blogs.
Let's see. Anyone
So
else like to
great
share?
opportunity to see like what conversation is happening. How can you plug into that
Jerry?
conversation? And blogs also tend to offer a more unique opportunity for
Very
long form
unoriginal. I have another
communication,
rose.
as opposed to something like Twitter or
Along an
Bookstagram that's really
Adirondack
much more
road,
bite
a
sized.
rose grows wild, like
Vlogs are
flame
also a
upon the
great way to
forest
do that.
floor.
So the
Why
BookTube,
it chose to grow right there, heaven only knows.
Goodreads groups
Yet there
tend
it
to be better
grows
for long
and
form.
strikes
So
a
it just kind of
pose
depends on what you're
that
looking
halts
for
my
as part of the
roaming
groups.
toes.
But finding a blog that fits in your genre that you
Okay, so I
can
have a
tap
question
into
for
is
you.
an
Did
amazing
Adirondack
resource.
come up on your list?
I would just
No,
Google,
no,
like,
rose came up on
actually,
my list.
I did
Adirondack
Google,
is what I'm
I think
familiar
it's
with.
2 meetings ago.
It's
Someone
a
asked
beautiful,
specifically
specific detail.
if I
It's
could
so
help them
grounding and
find a
lovely.
community
So
of
I
Native
wasn't
American
sure if it came up
readers,
on there. And I
because he
love
had some
toes as the
questions and
rhyme
wanted
with
to get some
rose.
feedback, see what they were interested in. And I literally Googled like Native American book
Yeah.
reviewer,
Did you
and there were
have a
like a handful
poem
of
that you
blogs. There
loved
were some
that
really
got
great
you
posts and
ignited
things
over
like that. So
poetry?
I would just do
Well,
that. But
you know,
also,
about
Readsy
100 years ago,
comes in clutch once
the
again.
only poems
They
I
have
was
like a book
familiar
blog.
with were pretty much
What's the word?
Edgar
Not
Allan Poe.
aggregate, but
So
they collect a lot of
Annabelle Lee
quality
was
book blogs, and you
probably
can search by
the
specific
first poem
genre.
that said, "Oh my gosh."
So if you're
You
not
know,
sure, if you're looking
I
at a
mean,
blog
there
and
I
you're
was.
like,
I
is
was
this
in high
legit or is
school
this
and,
not legit?
you know, romantic.
Generally you can tell, but
and
Readsy is a good
writing
place
poetry
to
got
double
you
check.
girlfriends. And
Okay.
you know, when
Reddit
of course,
is the
if you
next
read
one.
the last couple of
Reddit
stanzas
book
of Annabelle
community
Lee,
is
it
wild.
gets a little
People
creepy,
are
but
very
you have to
passionate
just
in this
forget
community.
that.
Sometimes I'm
But
like, y'all need to go outside,
you know,
take a
after
deep breath of
that,
fresh air, hug
you know,
someone. I
your
don't know.
influences
But
change.
they're very
So, you
passionate
know,
about
there
books.
was
And
Richard
so
Brautigan.
there is
A
this general, the
you
one
know,
on the
turnout for
screen
me.
is like a
And
general book
then
group,
probably the
or the book
person that
thread,
I still,
essentially.
you know,
And it's
admire so
super
much
popular. It's got
is
lots of
W.S.
activity,
Merwin.
but there are also
And so his
specific
book,
threads for
Finding
each
the
genre.
Islands, when
So
I
you
found
could
that,
do,
it was a really
romance
a
books,
real
/
revelation.
nonfiction,
And
things like that. So there are lots of active communities.
Carver's
I will
poetry.
say that Reddit as a
And
platform
now
can be
I'm
tricky to use. For most people, it's not like
my latest
super
is Billy
intuitive in terms of
Collins.
user experience. And
His
Reddit has some
small poems. So
not
yeah,
super strict,
those are
but they
just
have some very
wonderful
specific
things.
guidelines for interacting. So
Beautiful.
definitely
So
something to check out.
afterwards, if there's time, I have a question about a Merwin poem that I'd like
wants
to
to do
ask
your
you about the
research, it
form.
seems
So if
like
we have
that's the
time at
right
the end, can I do
community
that?
for you, but just be aware that
and
it can be a little bit tricky to use.
absolutely. So I thank you.
Okay,
That's such a
I have
rich
never used library thing, but I
group
asked
of
my friends, I was like, where do y'all
writers
have book
and
conversations?
poets
And
that
multiple
you
people said
mentioned there.
library
And
thing.
Annabelle
So I
Lee,
don't know
just
anything
the
about it, but
repetition, right?
I've heard from other readers that it
All
is
through
a
that
great
poem
way
and
to have
sound
book
and
related
oh, it's so
conversations.
fantastic for
So I would
creating that
say check it
whole
out, do your research, see if it's a good channel for you.
otherworldly feeling work. So
And then I
amazing.
also, something that I've done
Thank
before
you.
with an
Anyone
author
else
who
wish
had
to
written
share?
a memoir about their
I
personal
guess I'll
experience.
go.
But depending on what you're writing,
In
it could also
no
be really
way
useful
have I ever tried
for some other
poetry,
nonfiction
but
or maybe
I will
fiction,
say
depending on what it is to find community groups
I
that
love
have like a reading
Carl
element to
Sandburg,
them. So, for
and
instance, I'm from
his
outside Dallas. For
strength,
those of y'all who didn't know,
his
you
poems
will
are
hear me say
strong,
y'all.
and
And the Historical Society of Dallas has a book
the
club.
words
So
he
people who
he
are
uses
interested in
are
Dallas, who are interested
very
in history
forceful,
or Texas, that sort of
and
thing.
but
If you wrote a nonfiction about
those two
Texas, they
were
would probably be the
days
perfect people
gone
to read
by,
it. The African American Literature
thousands of
Book Club
years
has
ago,
a
that
very
I
active
was
online community.
exposed to
So
poetry. But
definitely outside of like
one of my
specific
words
channels
was
like Reddit or
bubblegum.
Facebook or YouTube,
The sweet taste
finding
of
those community
bubblegum.
groups that
Gone
exist
are
that
the
have a reading
bubblegum
element.
days.
You don't have
Those
to do the work.
troublesome
They've already got
school
the community.
days.
You can just plug
The
in.
bubble balloons and
Okay,
makes a pop.
that
The
was a
teacher
lot of
says
channels. Like I
behave
said, I'm
and
going to be
stop.
sending this slideshow out to y'all, so you'll have a chance to take a look, Google things,
I love the
review
sound
it
in there.
for what's best for you.
Trouble and bubble
Before you do that, though,
rhyming
I would
in the middle
say
of that.
pick only the
It's pretty
channels that
pitiful,
you
but
think that you
No,
can
not at all.
actually like
best I could do.
manage your presence on.
Delightful and
It
like
is always better
bubblegum,
to have
just
one
specific flavor,
space that you
smell,
are
scent,
like
everything. We all
actually
go there,
able
right?
to contribute to build
It's all
community, to
really
build
fun.
relationships.
Lovely to enjoy.
Then to have like 5 channels where it's too
Well,
much, you can't
I'm just
manage
going to
it, you're not
interject
really
another
involved,
word
you're
that I
just sort of
put
like
down,
there.
which no one will know what it
Because you have
is.
limited time.
But the word
So
is
anyone who tells you you need to be on every
scucciatrice.
channel is a liar.
And
That's not true.
I
You
lived
just
in
need to find
Italy
a channel
for
that
10
works
years or
best
so.
for what you've
And
written, works best for
and so,
you,
and it's
for
an
your
Italian
goals.
word.
And then,
And the word
really put in
comes
the work that
to
you,
me
put in the
easier
time that you
than
do
the
have
English
on those
word.
channels, and you'll see a
And
better
even
return
when I
than
put down
like,
this
I'm going to
word,
post the exact same thing on 4
scucciatrice, I
channels,
could
5
not
channels.
remember
I'm
what
never
it
going to interact
was
with
in
anyone because I'm
English.
busy posting this
And you'll
thing.
never ever guess,
So that would be my
because
recommendation.
that's a difficult
And then, of
word.
course, there's
And the English
once you've
word
actually
is
joined
staple
your
remover.
online community, how do you interact with them?
It's amazing.
There are some
but
really
I can
interesting
never remember
specific
the word
recommendations
staple
based
remover.
on your genre.
And yet
So,
the
for instance,
scucciatrice, which
the
is
horror
ridiculous,
novel community
that
talks to
comes
each other in
easier.
ways that is not almost
I
at
love
all
that.
in like the
That's a
way that
great
like the
just
health
sound word.
nonfiction space talks to each other.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Most of
scuccia
that
means
hopefully you
to
will know if you're a part of that
undo,
space, if you're a part of that community.
and trice
Always
would
make sure
mean
you're
to
doing some
sew,
research,
or to
keeping it on
connect.
brand for
So,
you, but also like
you're
being
just,
aware of some of the
it's just
unwritten
one of those
rules of
silly
the
words.
communities.
Yeah.
But no matter what,
Well, I'd
you
love to see you
always want to
string
make
it
sure that you're
together
just
with
being
3 or
respectful
4
of the
words.
Well,
space.
I won't
As I've
even
noted a
try,
couple of
my
times,
darling.
if there are some rules in that space
In
about
that same way, the
self-promotion or like sharing
Studebaker,
links, things like that, you're being aware of
Rutabaga
that.
type way.
And then being really
To
clear
try
about
to
what you
find
are trying
some
to do in the
English words,
community.
3 or 4
So is it that you
syllable
want to
words.
give
So I
away books and
challenge
get
you.
reviews?
You have to send me
Is
your
it that you
freeze-dried
want to
poem when you write.
brainstorm things or build relationships just to,
All right.
you know,
Anyone
get
else
feedback? Are you looking for beta readers, that sort
with
of
a
thing? So
burning
being
desire
really
to
clear
share?
about what you want. That way you can spend your time wisely online.
Penny, did you have a word you landed on?
And like I said in the beginning, but
We got about
I think it's
5
super
minutes
important
left.
to emphasize it
Go to
takes time and
questions.
effort.
Okay. Let me just
The example that we give at
come
work,
back here
people
and I'll
laugh,
just
but
say,
it is a real
before we get to
example.
questions,
In the same way that you
I
wouldn't
know
ask
this is
someone
sort
to
of
marry you on the
a
first date. Randomly joining a group online and being like, buy my book, it's the best thing you've ever seen. If they have no
You're
idea who you
frozen.
are, they don't trust you, they don't even know what you're talking about, is not the way to go. Generally speaking, you want to build those relationships, contribute to the community, not just spam things, and then you're going to get a much better return on your investment. So be smart, test things out, make sure that, you know, you're trying new things when you can, where it makes sense, and then put in the time. I blazed through that, so thank y'all for being along for the ride. I knew we were short on time. So we have about 5 minutes. Any questions that I can answer? Yeah, Penny.
Well, I'm at a loss in any of the social media. you know, I try to
He's gone.
like things, or I
think
try to
we
make a
lost her.
comment,
Oh,
or I
boy.
say encouraging things to people, whatever. I
Well.
try all sorts of kinds of
There
ways
she
to
is. There she
interact,
is. She's
and it's
back.
all nothing. I
He's
mean,
back.
nope.
Zoom
I
knew
might
that we're
get
just about out of
somebody
time. So
who's
all
one
I
of
was
our
going to say at
members
the
might
end here
do
was
a
just that I hope
handshake
you
at
make
me.
your own,
But that's
if
it.
not a little mini booklet,
I
but
don't,
definitely
I don't
dedicate a
know
notebook
how to
where
do
you
this.
either handwrite out or
Yeah, and you're not the only
photocopy
one.
and paste in
Most
the
of the
poems
time when
that
you
speak
ask
to you
authors
at your
what they're doing
time.
online,
And then
they're
I
trying to
gave you
build their
a
own
handout that's
following.
called
So it
Deepening Your
sounds like
Relationship to Poetry.
similarly,
That's really
like
just
if you're
full of very
spending your
simple
time online
ideas.
trying
But
to
one I
build
want
your
you to think
own
about is
following,
those
that's
poets
totally
whose
different than
work you
trying to like
really are
join
moved
a
by.
community,
Think
be a
about
member of a
conversing
community,
with
that sort of
them
thing. They
in
both
your
take a
own
lot of
poems and
time,
responding to the
but
questions or the
hopefully if
themes
you're a
that
part
they
of a
take up
group
that
or you're
matter to
in
you.
a, you know,
I
you're
love so
connecting
much
with
seeing
people
poets
in
in
an online
dialogue with each
community,
other.
you'll get more return on like
I'm thinking
contributing
of
to
Terrence Hayes
conversation,
has the sonnets,
connecting with people, that sort of
a
thing,
beautiful sonnet collection
because
where he
the
takes,
whole
there's a
structure
poem where
is
he
for
takes
people to
last
connect.
lines
So
from other poets and
definitely
incorporates
still
them into
tricky to
his
do, but
poem.
hopefully by
And
finding the right community
play, let
online
yourself
and
play and be part of the
contributing and, you
conversation
know,
and
getting
engage
to
with
know
some
them,
peers.
you'll actually get some pretty
So I
good
think
response.
it's all on that
We find
handout,
people
and
generally do
I
if it's the right group.
would so
Okay.
love to let you
If you
know
have
there's
some specific questions about
past
like
our
which
class
one
time
of these
together.
is right
Please
for
feel
me,
free to
like
reach
send me
out
an
to
email and we
me
can chat about
with
it.
them, or if it's
I
appropriate
think I'm comfortable
to
with
pass them to
Facebook
Penny
at
and she
this
passes
point,
them to
but
me, or however that
Awesome.
works. I'm new to how that happens.
You had a question,
But I
Allison?
just so
Yeah.
love poetry, and thank you so much for having me.
I'm not sure how
tonight.
to word
It's
this,
an
but
honor to be here.
let's just say I pick one platform,
Thank
which
you,
you said is
Tanya.
good. So I picked LinkedIn
And
because I felt I'd
I
rather
wish
be good at one
everybody
platform than mediocre
a
at
good
several.
evening, and we'll see you
So I've been
on
focusing on
the
LinkedIn because my book
27th.
is
Bye.
probably
Hey,
in the
wait,
genre
don't
of
go
business
yet.
books. I figured that that's where my
Tanya
readers would
can
be.
go, but
So I've joined a bunch of
we
groups,
have a
but
little bit
I'm kind
of
of nervous about posting there because I have so many rules.
Gil
And when you get accepted, you
business.
have to say, yes, I'm going to follow
So,
these rules. And one of them says you can promote on Wednesday, and one of them says you can promote on
the
Tuesday, and it's kind of crazy
poll
making. So I've mostly just done,
is
posting on my, what do you call it, my homepage or something. Anyway, so I
see
posted
if that
things.
works.
I
Are you
guess
getting
the best thing to ask is it best to
Yeah, I
post
see it.
content that's
okay, well,
relevant to
please
what I talk
fill
about in
out
my
your
book?
poll.
Because I've done that and I haven't really gotten very many comments. And in terms of a call to action, if you don't want to say buy my book, I don't really know what else would be a good call to action. When you're doing a post, let's just say we're doing LinkedIn. So I say, okay, my book is about how to write a book. So I can have a post saying, do you really know why you want to write a book? And then we could talk about the reasons that people might want to write a book. But I think, in posts, you sometimes want to have a call to action, especially if I'm not getting any comments. And I do try to, head my posts with a question so that it's a little bit more engaging. But I haven't gotten very much response. So I'm just
everyone
curious.
should have answered by now.
I know you talk about building relationships, but how do you build a relationship?
It'll show you how many people
when you want to talk about your book. I don't know. It just doesn't connect for me.
Well, there are
Yeah. So when you post
people I'm not
things,
able
like
to
you were
do the
talking
poll,
about,
so
like
that leaves 11
asking
and
the
there are
questions and
9
stuff
who
like
have
that,
answered.
are you doing that on your feed or in the groups?
No, like I said, I haven't been active in the groups because it's so complicated.
There's only 10 of us here, so if 9 have answered and you can't, we're done.
I can't follow all of these groups' different rules. I don't want to get thrown out of the group. So I've mostly just been posting on my own feed.
Yeah. So that is the distinction. I would say there's definitely a different strategy for if you're just building your own platform or trying to make connections through like just the general platform itself. The general channel. This is really specific to if you are trying to find a group of people who already exist who may be interested in your topic. That's where you're really like the structure is already built in. The people are already there because they're already interested in that topic. This is to hopefully help people find those groups so that they can build connection and promote their book.
Before, Bob.
If you're just doing it through your own channel and through the platform in general, it is a very different strategy. It's a lot more promotion. You have to do a lot more very strategic like keyword usage or hashtags or making connections. So absolutely hear you on the rules, especially on
I don't
LinkedIn.
see,
For some reason,
It
they're
usually
so picky
automatically
about like
sends you a
you can only
document.
say one thing once
Does
a
it?
month on this day
Yeah,
in this
I've
group. And I'm
not
like,
tried to
Even
open
Facebook
it.
groups have
Okay.
rules too. But in terms of the
I don't see
groups,
anything, any way to
I
send it.
joined at first a lot of writers groups.
Well, then
but
let's just
I
trust
realized
that
that they're not
that
my
it will send a message
target
to
audience. My target audience
board member.
are business
Yeah,
professionals that
somebody.
want to write a book. So if
It
I
should
go,
be
let's
going to
say,
Bob.
I joined a group of coaches, so say they're a good
Okay.
target audience. But talking about books in the
So-
coaching sector
So I
is
am
not
for
really
them?
what they're
You
interested
see
in.
it? Did it?
I'm
did it
interested
come
in
to
getting
you?
coaches
Did it
to want to
open
write books.
and not open,
But
but
if you
it
say engage in
shows you that it's
I can
conversation,
see the
they're
results,
probably
but
just
I
talking about
don't
how
know
they
how
can build
to
their coaching
save them.
business or how they're coaching or how they, what
if you
they
let
coach.
go, it
You know what I mean?
then
It's
sends
like
you a document.
hard to figure out how
But
I
it
Well, I
didn't-
don't
it-
see
it-
where to
it-
send it.
content.
I mean, there's
doesn't-
no,
yeah,
it
and
sends
I,
it to
you know, I would
It
say
knows it's you.
online mimic what you would
No.
do in person.
well, there's
So
no
ask
send.
someone, why did
Yeah,
you
there's
become a
no-
coach?
there's no way
What do you
that
wish
it
more
knows
people knew about
Bob, because
coaching?
it was,
What's the one
you know, Bob
thing
signed
as a
on
coach you wish
as
everybody
board
knew?
member.
Like
Maybe
starting
the
those
message goes to
conversations
the email
and then
account
moving
that we
it
have for
where it's appropriate into
for,
like, you
Zoom.
know, you could write a
It
book about
actually
that. There's a
pops
great
up
way to
in
get the
my-
word out.
in-
Like,
in
have
the-
you ever considered writing a book? So
in the screen,
I
not,
like that.
totally-
That's good.
it's
I
not
like that.
attached to an email.
yeah, almost
Well, in any
always, if you
case,
can mimic how you
we
would
don't have to
have that
hang around.
conversation in real life
If-
online, it tends to be more
Okay.
Well,
successful
okay.
than like,
In case
everyone,
it
I have this
isn't
amazing
recorded, do you
tool.
want me to
Because
tell
it
you
is an
what's
amazing
going on
tool,
with it?
but they're not
Yeah,
likely
yeah,
to believe
like,
you right away.
was
So
it-
finding
was it
ways to engage with
favorable?
people of like, okay, so you're a
Overall
coach. Like,
presentation,
did you know that there's
7
another great way
excellent,
to
1
reach
good,
new
1
people?
fair.
It's through a book, blah, 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 things like that. So
Content
that would be
relevant,
my recommendation, but
5
LinkedIn is a very
relevant,
specific monster. So I hear
2
you.
not at this
Well, you
time,
have to be
and
subtle.
2
No, but-
irrelevant.
I mean, people in LinkedIn have been very
How effective was the
aggressive. And
presentation
I even found
Who
out on
was the
Instagram.
presenter
I hired a VA.
in
She had me on
communicating?
Instagram and all I kept getting were
Uh,
people who wanted me to pay for them to write
8
book reviews. And I
very
got off as
effective
quickly
and
as I
1
got on
effective.
because I found it just really offensive.
Um,
So I just decided to stick with LinkedIn.
How likely are you to recommend?
Yeah. And you
SD
know, if that's
Wade?
the best channel,
Very
then,
likely
and like you
8,
said, if that's
likely
where,
1.
you know, it makes more sense to put
And
your effort
everybody's
and the time
already
you
a
do
member,
have
and
into one
that's
channel and
the
do
end
it
of the
well,
poll.
then that absolutely sounds right.
Yeah, I'll just pick one group.
And if it
follow their
shows
rules.
up
That'll be
on
easier.
the,
Start with that, see how it goes. Let me know.
if it comes in to my
Okay.
board member
this is the
email,
end
then
of the,
I'll let you know.
Yes. let me
Marketing
see.
session. Wait,
Okay.
share results now at the bottom, and now we've
Richard
got
Peterson,
something. Did you have a question before?
we
Download
close that?
results.
Oh, there you go.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I wonder why it didn't come up before.
Marty,
Marty, are you going to take the,
So is
the
there
time
going to
from
be,
9
I
till
noticed
7
sent
when
out
we
about the
start the
Saturday
poetry
events Zoom.
Yes,
lecture?
yes. Either
Sign
tonight or
in,
tomorrow morning. I'll get that
password,
out.
Marty, are you there?
If you say download, Bob, I think it'll get downloaded on either on your computer or in the cloud.
Well,
Hang
Marty,
on,
the Zoom
I'm
meeting.
here. I just was muted
okay,
and
So,
I was trying
One way or
to
the other, we
figure
should be
out.
able to get it. Okay.
First of all, I lost all the
Okay.
faces and I thought, oh
it
no,
says,
what have I done?
wants me to sign in
But,
with the email and
Anyway,
password and stuff.
hello,
like that.
everybody.
well, I
It's
hope you got
great
it.
to see
That's
you
why I
all.
think it'll go to the
And
Our first
Guild-
real
it was nice to catch a
to the
little bit of
Guild's
your
Zoom account.
presentation, Allison.
Okay, terrific.
And
Okay.
I want to say
Okay.
hi to Ruth
So
Wallace.
thank you all very
Been
much.
a long time. I know I
And,
see you often here.
We'll,
And
Good
I
to see you too, Marty.
oh, thank you. I'm going to have
see you
some
next time.
interesting news
Bye.
a little bit later on once we get more folks
Good
here
job,
that
Leslie.
I think you'll be interested in. I want to say hi to some of these people that I don't know. Leslie Ferguson. Are you a new member?
Hi.
Hi.
I've been a member for a little while now.
Good.
And I've been to several of the meetings, maybe a few of the meetings.
Uh-huh.
Hi.
Good. What area of town are you in? Are you in San Diego?
I'm in Escondido.
Okay, so you know about our in-person meeting on the 27th. It's the first time we're meeting in 3 years due to the COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's been on the web page. It's one of the events.
Okay.
And it's going to be held at the Mission Valley Library. And it's on a Saturday from 1 to 3:30. We're celebrating the anthology that got delayed.
I'm in it.
Oh, you are? Good. Okay, good. So we're having readings, and we're going to have a big group. We have at least 50 coming, and I'm sure we're going to get more. And have you submitted to the next anthology?
I don't think I have. I don't think I've heard anything about it.
Well, you got to get cracking, because the cutoff date is June 1st.
Oh, okay. Goodbye.
And no, you can do it. You can do it. And the theme is traversing life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen anything about that.
It's on the web. It's on the website.
Okay.
And it's under anthology, and there's information on what you need to know to submit to it. All the fonts and size, page size and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you can have a short story, you can have poetry, you can have any, and any kind of writing, and everything is outlined there. And this is one of the Guild's greatest things that we offer, because it gives all of our authors a chance to be published and a chance to be read and on all that. So I hope all of you other new people, Pablo Sainz Garibaldi, I'm sure I just murdered your name, welcome. And want to say a few words about yourself?
Thank you, Marty. Yes, hi, everyone. My name is Pablo Sainz Garibaldi, and I'm a published author here in San Diego. I mostly write in Spanish, but I'm multilingual. I was with the San Diego Union Tribune's Latino publications for about 15 years. And now I work as a full-time translator and interpreter for the San Isidro School District. And I started as a publishing in traditional Mexican publishing houses, but now I'm publishing 1 or 2 books annually through on Amazon. So that's expanded a lot of the topics that I cover that a traditional publishing house probably won't be interested in.
Okay. Are you coming to our in-person meeting?
I'm planning. I haven't registered.
Okay.
But I know it's this Saturday, but I haven't RSVP yet.
Well, you got to get cracking, my darling.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we need you to register. So there's a
yes.
So there's
you need a head count. Yes.
A seat for you to have.
Yes.
And a name tag for you to wear. So I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Marty.
And please come and introduce yourself to me when you come. Okay.
I will. Thank you.
Great. Jerry DiCarlo, how are you?
I'm doing well, Marty. How about you?
Okay, I'm doing great.
Keeping busy?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I have not particularly writing, but otherwise. What about you? Are you busy writing?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to finish something up to submit for this year's anthology.
Oh, good. Okay. What kind of writing do you do? What's your genre?
Short fiction.
Oh, okay. Good. Are you coming? I think you're coming to our in person, aren't you?
Free food, of course I'm coming.
Oh, all right. That'll get him every time.
You bet.
Okay. Girdlestone, can you unmute yourself and talk to us a little bit? Are you there? She disappeared.
Hi, sorry, no, I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I was in the kitchen, but I was listening.
Okay.
What would you like to know?
Well, I'd like to know what kind of writing you're doing, and if you're coming to our in-person meeting on the 27th. Have you go ahead.
The in-person meeting, that's the one that's in Mission Valley, is that right?
Yeah, the Mission Valley Library.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have registered for that and hope to be able to be there.
Okay, great.
As for my type of writing, I'm relatively new to the writing world. I've been writing just in my spare time, kind of as a hobby. I've done some poetry over the years, and I submitted a poem to your anthology for 2023. We'll see if I get that accepted. Yeah. So yeah, I've been trying to get more involved in the meetings. I've been attending and listening and taking notes and, storing it all away for when I'm actually have a full draft instead of just 8 chapters.
Okay, great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the meeting on the 27th. So thank you. Come up and introduce yourself to me if you will.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I see Kim Moreno. Can we have a few words with Kim? Hi. You're muted. There you go.
There we go. There we go. Right. I'm jumping from one activity to another tonight, so trying to find the right background or picture.
That's perfect right there.
Yes, I've been a member for several years.
Great.
And I have to just say right out how much I appreciate and enjoy the newsletters and the Friday night, the Friday bulletins that show up, So of course I'm a diehard reader like most of us, I'm sure. All right. And mostly my current genre that I'm really working on is fiction. All right. And I did finish the first draft of one novel just prior to COVID, and then realized, oh my gosh, that going back and editing and doing the revising isn't nearly as fun as doing the actual writing. All right. So yeah. And I've done a lot of editing, a lot of science writing. I'm a nurse by background, and so I've done a lot of professional, very constrained academic writing for most of my professional career. And so writing fiction, which is really where my heart is at the present time, is what I'm working toward. So I'm trying to get back into the groove of that. And I've got wonderful ideas. I've got a couple works in progress. And I hadn't thought I was going to jump into the anthology, but I think I might have a thing or two that I think might be just about ready to go. So I may make that leap. So, but I've attended a number of different meetings, not religiously, but I really appreciate being part of the group, and I've learned a lot since I've participated. And again, enjoyed all of the things that we're, and I'm glad we're here. Won't be there Saturday, got other family plans, but I'll be following along on what comes out of that. So.
Okay, great. Excellent. Yeah. I'm going to make an announcement because for those, and Ruth, I want you to listen really well, because for those who are not in San Diego and can't attend our May 27 meeting, we're going to Zoom it. And Sandra is going to be in charge of that.
Okay.
And is going to send out to our members all the information you need to come into the meeting and be a part of it.
Okay.
So this is a new thing that we're going to try. Sandra, do you want to say a few words on this?
I just want to say we're going to try it. We're going to do the best we can. And it's the reason we're able to try it is that the library, now Marty, correct me if I'm wrong, the library has an owl. I don't know if you all have heard of an owl, but the owl is a device that swivels where it hears the voices coming from to be able to put the faces on the screen, no matter where the voices are in the room. And so we believe that this will give us the ability to have people who are not in San Diego be able to take part in the meeting as well. Or even people who are in the San Diego area who are stuck in Carlsbad or Oceanside and can't make it down this way, Andrea, just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's yeah, we're gonna do our best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was really being sorry that I couldn't come all this time. I mean, keep hearing about it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try it. I really have full confidence in Sandra, because there isn't anything she puts her fingers to that doesn't come off beautifully. So that'll be just great. And I really look forward to everybody who's coming. I'm just so excited about it, to see everybody. And also, I want to remind everybody that we're doing luncheons. I do a luncheon, Penny does a luncheon. We've got 2 guys up in North County doing luncheons. I think there's a luncheon in Poway. I'm not sure. I heard about that, but I don't have any information. And these are other ways that we can meet in person. We don't do any guild business. It's just purely social, writers getting together, chatting about what we're doing and how we're going, if there's any problems. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. So Bob, maybe we can get started a little early. What do you think?
Well, I'm worried about the people who show up just at 7 and they'll miss part.
Well, then let me open this for anybody who wants to talk about what they're doing. What other kind of yeah, Ruth.
I was just tickled to death today because I got a letter from the editor of my past book, and I've had another book written for about 3 years and not done anything with it. So I asked her, would she be interested? And she wrote right back and said, absolutely. So that was a really good,
all right,
a really good start.
All right, way to go, Ruth.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So how's everything in Arizona?
Well, it's good. I haven't really gotten out to get into any other groups, but I found one the other day. So maybe now that COVID's totally over, maybe I'll find one.
Uh-huh.
But nothing beats the San Diego Writers and Editors Guild in my book.
Yeah, I guess we all agree on that. Rich, anything you want to talk about?
I assume you're talking to me.
I am.
Yeah, it has to do with poetry, just briefly. It's hard to remember, but way back when, probably in high school, we were required, let's say encouraged, to memorize the first 6 lines of The Village Blacksmith by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And I was been able to recite this off and on throughout decades. And just today, I'm ashamed to say, but just today I read the whole poem. And I was pleasantly surprised. It's a good one. Well, it's Longfellow, right? But still, it impressed me when, in fact, I only knew the first 6 lines from way back when. So that's my mini story.
Do you remember the 6 lines?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What are they?
I haven't.
Let's have a recitation.
I can cheat if you. No, just so everybody enjoys it, and it's kind of cool. I like how through the poem, he's a very definitive, strong visual words. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands. And the muscles of his brawny arms are as strong as iron bands.
All right.
That's a pretty cool introduction.
Yeah, that's a very famous poem, for sure. Ah, okay, nice. Okay, Ruth.
I have a request. When they send out, whoever sends out the notices and the Zoom address, would you put in there the time of the marketing meeting and the fact that it's the Zoom also? Because I totally didn't put that connection together, that both of them were the same Zoom and one was at 5:30 and one was at 6:30. So if you really want to get people to the marketing meeting, put both of those on the meeting notice. That would be really nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Ruth. We keep trying to figure out how to do that better. So thank you for the reminder.
Okay.
Anyone reading a great book to recommend? Yes.
It's kind of a joke. I'm reading my own book because I'm doing the audiobook.
Oh, good.
So
What's the name
my
of it?
memoir that was published a couple of years ago. And I'm now working on a novel. So
okay.
And I'm also, I should say, I'm reading like 3 books at once. So I'm actually still reading The Fool and the Corn by our beautiful poetress who's going to be joining us and teaching us about poetry tonight. The Fool and the Corn is just a beautiful book of poetry. If you haven't read it yet, I recommend it. And I'm reading another memoir that was written by somebody I befriended through Facebook, through one of the groups that the marketing person was talking about, you know, how you get into all of these binders groups and start conversing and leaving little comments and just get to know people that way. And that book is interesting. It's called Scapegoat Daughter, and it's about this woman's experience with her family. It's a very toxic situation, and she basically sets some boundaries and eventually decides to kind of cut them out of her life. So it's eye-opening for sure. So
okay. Larry, do you have anything you'd like to say to us? It's always good to see you. You're always here. But if you don't, no.
I'd like to share something, Marty.
Yes.
If you like to see your favorite authors live, you might want to check out adventuresbythebook.com. They bring some of the top best-selling authors to different venues in San Diego. And I just found out that one of my favorite authors, Kate White, is going to be at the Carlsbad Library tomorrow. And then in a few weeks, Lisa C. is going to be speaking there. And she's a very well-known author writing on Asian women. So you could check out the Carlsbad Library website. That's the one on La Costa. And you could check out adventuresbythebook.com. And sometimes you just get inspired by, they talk about their writing process and just seeing them up close and personal when you've read their books is kind of fun.
Right. I just picked up Barbara Kingsolver's book, the one that's out now. I just picked it up today at the Mission Valley Library. I was down there checking out things, and it's been highly recommended. I don't know if anyone's read it. I've read a number of her other books and have enjoyed them very much. Can't think of the name of it right now. It's not in my immediate vicinity.
Something about a serpent.
Yeah.
The Demon Copperhead?
Yeah, Demon Copperhead. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, that's the name of it.
Yeah, I just bought it. So.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I haven't started to read it yet, but I just got it.
Oh, good. I'm reading The Light Pirate right now, and it's she also wrote a book that I read. Let me just get it here. She's also the author of Good Morning Midnight, and I enjoyed that book very, very much. This book, The Light Pirate, it is a little slow getting started, but it was recommended by Good Morning America, the Good Morning America book club. I try to pick up a lot of these books that are recommended. And now I am into it, and it's the story of all the storms going on in Florida and how these small towns are disappearing. The community can't afford to take care of all the damage that previous storms have made, and it's a family that's involved in keeping the lights on, so to speak, in these communities. It's I am enjoying it, but it took a while to get into it. How are we doing? 6:55?
Can I?
Yes, Kim.
Since we're talking about poetry tonight in particular, I had a dear friend who's also an author who recommended one that maybe other people know, but it's new to me. And this is Ada Limon. Ada Limon, I believe he used that. Adalimon. And she is the poet laureate of the United States. And this friend, my friend, who's a writer, her name is Sharon Lovejoy, who writes writes a lot of things for children and talking about the natural world and gardening things. Really recommended this highly, and I bought three of her current books, and I'm just loving this poet. I really, and so I'm making I make a point of reading it every day, and each of her poems are kind of like a little mini short story in and of themselves. You know, they're not rhyming. It's not a rhyming type, but I really would recommend it. They're just it's just wonderful writing. Adalimon. And I want to say, you might pronounce it Limon, Ada Limon. And it's just really wonderful writing. And I think you'd enjoy it.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm going to turn the rest of the meeting over to Bob Riffenberg, and I'm going to try to pronounce Tania's last name. Pryputniewicz. How did I do, Tania?
Nice try.
Oh,
I answer to it.
Okay. Okay, Bob, you take it away.
All right. Tania Pryputniewicz. Little preface to that. Writing runs through a spectrum. At one end, writers present precision knowledge, like in scientific writing. The spectrum then runs through nonfiction, which is like presenting informative writing, then through fiction, which is like presenting conceptual writing. And then you get to the other end of the spectrum, which is poetry. Now, Tania Pryputniewicz points out that poetry can be defined in many ways, most of which seem to define it as more emotion than information. Witness imaginary toads in real gardens, or quote. We might even characterize poetry as writing about pure feeling without necessarily regard for fact. Well, Tania is both a poet, and she has published 3 books, including 2 poetry collections, and a teacher of poetry, as we will experience tonight. She says this is a write and share experience for us to have. Perhaps we writers from the other end of the spectrum can learn how to feel and love poetry. She asked each of us to bring the poem that turns you on to poetry. So with that, I'll turn it over to her. Here now is Tania.
So much, Bob. I am so honored to be here with all of you. I do have a PowerPoint, so let me see if I can do that. You probably made me a co-host before. Can someone make me a co-host and then I can share my screen?
I have made you a co-host.
Okay, let's see. It says, oh, it's working. Perfect. All right. Are you seeing my screen then? Beautiful. So I'm delighted that San Diego Writers and Editors Guild reached out a couple months ago to me and asked me if I would teach some poetry. So I got to teach a 6-week course earlier that just finished a couple weeks ago, but this was really the first class we talked about me offering to you. And so I'm, brand new to this group, but so honored that you even thought to invite me here. So this is what we're looking at tonight. Your relationship to poetry. I wasn't sure if I was going to be introduced, so these are the 3 books I've written so far. November Butterfly came out in 2014 from Saddle Road Press. Heart's Compass Tarot came out during the pandemic in 2021, and that's much more of a workbook about how to journal to discover your own imagery and symbolism. And then the 3rd book that just came out in December is The Fool in the Corn, and that's a memoir and poems that also came out from Saddle Road Press. So I was blessed enough to receive an MFA from the University of Iowa. I got to take my undergrad poetry at UC Davis and then moved here to San Diego about 10 years ago. I got here in 2012, I believe. So since then, I've been teaching at San Diego Writers, Inc., and I also teach courses for Antioch University Continuing Education Program. And then, like I said, so delighted to get to come and share a little bit with all of you. So tonight is really just a gentle, I just ask you to kind of open your heart and drop in with me. My own relationship to poetry, it really begins the words, the sound of them. I wanted to share, this is a little tiny booklet. It's actually a book. There's a cocoon on the front for the reminder about how we, eventually turn into the butterfly inside of this little booklet. This was made for me by a dear friend and collaborator. We make poetry movies together too, but she painted this. And then my father gave me some magic words to put in here, and I keep it on my desk just as a playful reminder when I come across phrases or words. I'm sure all of you keep a journal, but this is sort of like a tiny magical little thing. You might want to make one for yourself. Put a little tiny pocket inside and just put some of the most inspirational and beautiful words that move you as you go through your reading history. We can become writers of poetry, but first we're readers, right? So we fall in love with certain phrases or words. I'm going to grab one in here. This one is kind of silly. For fast acting, try slowing down. That's Lily Tomlin. So this idea around just even a single word, I want you to just hang on to that idea tonight as we go through our workshop together. This is also a gift of my father, the little tiny typewriter with the pencil sharpener. And in it, I keep Emily Dickinson's poem number 1263, and I'm just going to read it to you. There is no frigate like a book to take us lands away, nor any coursers like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse, poorest take, without oppressive toll. How frugal is the chariot that bears the human soul. So a frigate is a ship or a boat. So I'm just going to read it again, and I'll talk through each line a little bit. So there's no ship, there's no boat, no frigate. like a book to take us lands away, nor any coursers, horses, like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse, this journey, may the poorest take without a press of toll. There's no cost. How frugal is the chariot that bears the human soul. As a child growing up in Illinois with my father, he was a piano tuner and a musician. We had some years where maybe we had less than other families around us, but words were king and queen. Music was in the house. We had when I was a teenager, we had one of these Underwood typewriters on the table that you always hear about writers having. But this was a big part of joy. You could go to the library and check out whole arm stacks of books for free. There was no cost. And the lands that you could go to in your imagination, just beautiful and amazing. So I just want you also, as we're in this room together today, to think about that. Very first books you read, those first words that ignited you, that somehow grabbed your imagination and set you going on your course to where you are still thinking, wow, I have this story, this book, this poem I want to write. Beside that is a little tornado I bought when I was in graduate school in Iowa City. There's also a little butterfly here that I keep on there to remind me that, you know, whatever the emotional storms are, the ups and the downs of life itself, you know, if you witness and put yourself in the eye of that storm, you can begin to write down the story of what happened or what you're seeing around you. So that's more looking at, you know, memoir or narrative story, and that comes into poetry as well. All the forms talk to each other. So I'm just going to say that for tonight, everybody in this room is a poet. We all love words, so we're all poets here together. Oh, actually, let me go back here. So what I want to play we're going to play a little game. Hopefully you have a piece of paper there. So throughout our time, I'll stop and ask you to write down a word or two. So I want you to think right now of a word that you love just for the sound of it. And if you can think of a couple syllable words or even 3-syllable words, and just write those down. And you might think of them as we're talking throughout our class tonight. I'll give you an example. And my kids just love to say the word obelisk. That's one of our words, and they didn't even know what it meant at the time. Now they do, and they can't. You know, nobody misses an opportunity to say, "Look, there's an obelisk." We're traveling and they see something. Dodecahedron is another one. Stegosaurus. All those dinosaur words are fabulous in that way. So just play with me for a minute. I want you to just write some of those words down. It will take 2 minutes for you just to write. Make a list. And they can just be words that you love the sound of. This was a family game I wanted to share with you that we used to play. My father calls them poems. So it's not haiku, there's no real form, but this was the playful thing that we would play with. And it's really just listening to the sound of a word, and then you try to find a word that's like it, but it might have a different ending. It doesn't have to rhyme perfectly. But here's one example: Winnebago, Studebaker, Rutabaga, Archipelago. Second one is muskrat, musket, mesquite, and mesquite. So that's just pure sound play and listening, just listening to how a 2 or 3 syllable word might go with another one, and they don't necessarily have to rhyme. This is just a playful little thing to think about. So there's so many different definitions for poetry, and I'm sure you have heard this before. If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold, no fire ever can warm me, I know that is poetry. If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry. These are the only ways I know it. Is there any other way? That's Emma. Carl Sandburg has some different ones too, but here's one. Poetry is an echo asking a shadow to dance. Rita Dove talks about it as language at its most distilled and most powerful. And then we have the one that Bob read when he was introducing me. Poetry is the art of creating imaginary gardens with real toads. So we're all building worlds with words, and they may or may not be real. And one of my favorite things about poetry is that it's a transport, the journey in words. When you read a poem that moves you, it takes you deeply into the whole sphere of that particular poem and that experience. And something happens to us when we read the poem, interior. And as the writer of the poem, we are both chasing an experience and an essence to get it on the page, but we are also hoping that our reader can have some of that experience when they read our poem. And that it's such a delicate dance of allowing enough space in the poem for any reader to come in and be in it and fill in their own experience. So it's a dance, it's a lifelong dance. And some poems do it than others. And it's a beautiful form of expression to explore. There's so many different kinds of poems. And I just love this image of the boat crossing. So in a very simple sense, this is a slide that I use writers of all ages, but I really love this art by Octavio Ocampo. And all of us as writers, whether we're writing poems or fiction or memoir, we're actually trying to create some kind of a picture through words, composite. And we use different tools to do that. Just like here, you see the leaves and the flower on the mouth of the woman, and the actual flowers kind of making a ring around her blouse. So I'm just kind of using that painting as a metaphor for what we end up putting together when we write our poetry. And there's, again, so many different tools. We wouldn't be able to cover all of them tonight. But intensity of sound is definitely one, where you're using the same sound to start a sentence. And I give you this sing-song childhood one. Peter Piper picked a pickled peppers, or she sells seashells by the seashore. Obviously, there's different levels of skill that poets use around that, but often you'll be moved because there's a sound moving through the poem that has a certain emotional tone that the poet's paying attention to. Or then we have comparisons and metaphors. Here's one from Joy Harjo. At dawn, the panther of the heavens peers over the edge of the world. And then just like all of our writing, we all draw upon the senses. That's just sort of a common sense thing that we do as writers, is try to recreate experiences sensually. So did ask all of you to potentially bring the poem that first ignited your desire to be connected to poetry. And even if you didn't do that, that's fine too. You could just spend a moment thinking about what was the essence of that poem that attracted you and pulled you into poetry. So I'm going to give us, again, a couple minutes here just to drop in and think about that. If you did bring a printed poem or you have it in front of you, just take a moment to circle your favorite line or lines. What moves you in that particular poem? What is the poet doing with language that inspires you there? So I'm going to give us just a couple minutes to do that. And again, if you didn't bring one, maybe just close your eyes for a moment and take yourself back to that, whatever those poems were. It might just be a line of poetry, might just be an image. But if you can make a few notes about it, and I'll call us back in a minute. Okay, so we'll circle back to that. I'm going to have us do a writing exercise, and we'll come back to those lines, and I'll get to hear from you about your poem at that point. So, what I did for us tonight was to choose a poem that's really based upon one word. The poet's project was to choose a word and play with sound. And this was the poem that she came up with. This is Diane Lockwood. I'm going to read the poem for you, and then we'll have some directions for how to play and get you to engage with the poem. Love Song with Plum by Diane Lockwood. I take what he offers, a plum, round and plump, deeper than amethyst purple. I lift the fruit from his palm. Like little Jack Horner, I want it in a pie, thumb stuck in to pluck out that plum. I baked in a pudding, served post-prandial, drenched in something potable and set on fire, to sit across from him and say, "Passing, please." Morning toast, dollops of plum preserves, and when we grow old, a bowl of prunes, which after all are nothing more than withered plums. But today the air is scented with plumeria. This particular fruit stand, I'm plum loco, in love with the plummiest man. Festooned with peacock plumes and swaddled in the plumage of my happiness, I want to stand at the perimeter of this plum luscious earth. Think a plumb line for balance, and like a bird on fire, placate all my desires, my implacable hunger for the ripeness of my sweetheart. So what Diane did was take the word plum, and she made lists, words that rhymed with plum, words for which she took the first 4 letters and came up with as many words as she could. And then she also grabbed sound units, the PL sound, and made some lists there and paid attention to the sounds throughout. I'm going to ask you to borrow the format of this poem to come up with your own. She says here, love song with plum. And what I'm asking you on this next slide is choose your own word to fill in the sentence. Love song with, and you choose. And you might start with a word and then go, oh, maybe I need a different word. Because when you start to make the lists of words that rhyme or near rhymes or words that begin with the same letter, if you're running inspiration, maybe you want to choose a different word. So I'm going to ask you to go through these steps on choose a word to fill it in. And again, do you want it to be a flower, some kind of object you enjoy? But we're using her format, love song with. Make a list of rhymes and near rhymes, words that begin with the same letter, and then play in the same way she did. I give you the example here. Plum, plum, plump, plumeria, plummet. And grab any of the 2-letter combinations in your word that are speaking to you. And we'll take 10 minutes to do this part of the exercise, and then I'll ask you to stop and go ahead and see if you can gather up some kind of narrative from the different lists. So let's take 10 minutes, and you can choose to do any part of this exercise that's speaking to you right now. You don't have to do all of it, but try making some lists at least on your word. And I'll call us back in 10 minutes and give you a second direction at that point. Okay, we still have some time, but if you haven't already, move on to that number 5, where you're free writing using your senses to search your experience. When, where, and how have you encountered that word? And you can also write about it in the fantasy way and the way you would like to encounter the word that you chose, love song, with. Okay, and I will give us one last 5-minute reminder for the third part. Okay, and let's the tall order to try to do all of this, but my hope is that I'm creating some heat and some desire for you to keep finishing the poem past what we do in class today. We'll take just another 5 minutes. So now you've made some lists. Maybe you got to write a little bit about this when, where, how you encountered this particular word, even if it was an actual experience or an idealized fantasy experience. And take the last 5 minutes just to go back through what you've written so far. Have your favorite lines or words. See if there is anything emerging for you. Is there a line that you love? Is there a direction you feel like this group of words could head in? So just take another 5 minutes to see if you can start your poem. And I'll call us back in 5 more minutes so we can share and hear some of your work. All right. This is my favorite part where I get to hear what you caught in your net. What did you find today? I'd love it if you would be willing to share with me, read your favorite part or talk about any part of what came up for you around your word choice. And then also maybe tell us about the poem you chose and what you loved about that first poem that led you to poetry. So I believe we have time. I'm hoping we have time to hear it from everyone. If you want to share who wants to start us off?
This is Rick and I can start. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you. Yes.
This is because I want to get this pain over, and please try to suppress your groans. This is kind of tongue in cheek. I'm calling it Azure Days based on the word blue. Blue is one of my favorite colors. It's the color blue. And what was interesting as I went through this over and over, I tried to get some kind of meter or rhythm going, which I didn't have when I started at all. So that's kind of a little mini transformation. Okay, it begins, and it's short. I'm offered an apple, it's large and it's blue. It must be a mutant. 'Tis true, yes, 'tis true. But the strange fantasy is shattered and through when I awake, and the world is askew, 'cause the buzzing clock announces a day freshly new, which also means the month is 2. And alas, dear friend, my mortgage is due. The end. I told you it was fun and silly at the same time.
You managed to come up with all of that in that short amount of time. That's amazing. I love them.
I don't know if you call them amazing, but yeah.
And did you have a poem you brought that you love, or one that you want to tell us about? You talked about reciting.
That was the village blacksmith, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I came across another 6 lines that I thought were somewhat poignant. Begins, we're talking about the village blacksmith. He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice singing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. I thought that was nice.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that you went back and looked at the rest of the poem. It's amazing how reciting, learning, memorizing brings the poem into us, and we have it forever like that. And I love that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Who else? Ruth.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I chose the word rose. I wanted a rose so I could suppose you loved me. The petals soft and silky, the thorns of no import to one who loves. The fragrance gently there could also pose as love if you loved me.
Thank you, Rose. I love the question in there, and rose and pose. I love hearing the rhyme. Did you also bring a poem that you loved, or did you have one you remembered?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Was there one you loved from a certain time in your life, or anything come to mind?
When I was young, my mother had given me a book called 101 Poems.
Uh-huh.
And it got very tattered and torn, and I almost lost it, and then I did lose it. And years later, she gave me a new copy of 101 Poems, and I was just so touched that she remembered that I liked it so much, because I reread those poems every now and then.
I love that. Does it have like Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven and
just a lot of poems by different people? They're
beautiful.
They just touch my heart when I liked them. I like them. I still like them.
I love that aspect too. When a certain work comes into our lives, then it brings up that whole time period too, right? They're like anchors in that way that songs are, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Who else would like to read?
I wanted to say something. I didn't feel inspired to write a poem, but I wanted to mention that I was brought up on Dr. Seuss. And so I always thought of poems as rhyming. And when I was younger, I wrote a lot of poetry, and I wrote music, songs, and played the piano. But after Dr. Seuss, I moved on to Ogden Nash, and I want to read one of my favorite poems. Consider the auk, becoming extinct because he forgot how to fly and could only walk. Consider man, who may well become extinct because he forgot how to walk and learned how to fly before he thinked. And I love the way his lines didn't always have the same meter, but they always rhymed.
I love that.
Yeah, I like him too.
I still have my whole book of Ogden Nash poems.
Beautiful. And that, yeah, Dr. Seuss and music and all of that working together. And I love humor. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I'd like to go.
Great. Thank you, Leslie.
So the poem that I brought was Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. It is one of my favorites, and I was kind of struggling with this, and so I tried a couple of different times, and I ended up just using her form because I like how her poem moves from, you know, the beginning is, you do not have to, you do not have to, and then she asks the reader to tell me something, and it, you know, unfolds into this beautiful poem about life and meaning and nature. And so that's kind of what I did. So I chose raspberry as my word. I kind of regret it now, but here we go. And I know that, you know, when we're imitating, it is hard because we want to emulate, but we don't want to copy, you know. So this, of course, wouldn't stay like this, but it was helpful to use it as a poem just to follow, just to kind of copy the form. You do not have to taste the raspberry. You do not have to let its juice bleed onto your skin. You only have to let it bloom where it lives. Tell me about your mistakes, and I will tell you mine. And the bramble will grow, and the story of sour and sweet wraps at the back of our throats, lining its red berry sugar along the wish to speak. And the soil and sky continue to meet. The raspy wind carries scent of raspberry, sending memory across the land. Whoever you are, no matter how thirsty, the seeds offer you the beginning, so you may once again begin again.
Beautiful. I love what you did with that, Leslie, and the
thank you.
Green and the bramble and all the senses, and using that structure. It's such a beautiful thing to do. It's exactly what I was hoping would happen in here, is that you would look at that poem that you loved and then see how you could use what you so loved in that original poem, right? Mary,
or butcher it in 5 minutes.
No. So it's so amazing, that structure of just simply coming right out and saying something. You do not have to be good. I think I'm hungry for those direct statements. So that's a beautiful poem for everyone to try too. If you love Mary's poem, go ahead and put out the first statement that you want to claim that you're so hungry for hearing yourself. And then what's the image story that helps us think into whatever that statement is that you have, that you make, that you share. So, beautiful. Thank you, Leslie. Anyone else like to share? And, you know, if you don't want to share about the poem, maybe some of the words you arrived at or fell in love with.
I mean, I could share the first one I wrote that is really weird, and if you need, you know, if you're hoping for more ideas to be put out there.
Sure.
Nobody else wants to. I don't want to take time away from anybody else.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Go ahead. Okay. Again, the fruit I chose, I regret it, but I chose a kumquat. And I started with, I have eaten a kumquat. I want it to be less tart, hot to trot, when I squat to make my legs strong, tight as a drum, rum pum pum pum. It will be a kilowatt spot that becomes a clean thought, to locate that kumquat as a reason to memorize, an eloquent low-key in recent memory, to prize a low-key loquacious delicacy as delicious as rum, distilled humdrum, boiled down to motivation in my living room, my kitchen. To breathe is to live. Reach for that sour orange skin, rind of nutrition, no bigger than a bite. Oh, kumquat, dear citrus, come to my mouth.
Well, there's so many great words that you arrived at and put all in that same sphere. I love it. Kilowatt, like that's a fantastic rhyme. So I love the distance you travel in that poem. It's serious too, in the middle.
Fun just to, you know, let it go. But then I was like, it's just so silly, but it's a good exercise to get the brain expanding and to get out of your comfort zone, because even starting with something like that, you know, isn't going to make it into any great literary journal or anything. It's just a good exercise in kind of getting ready to do more, to become stronger, better, more practice, etc. So
great. Thank you, Leslie. Anyone else want to share either about, Sandra? Yeah.
Very, very reluctantly, but I have to say that I was looking for the poem that Leslie said is her favorite, but I couldn't remember the name, so I wasn't. But that's the poem I wanted to pull out of my memory, was Wild Geese.
Oh.
Anyway, several years ago, a group of women from an organization that I'm part of did what we call a poetry slam, which meant that, you know, there were 70 and 80-year-old women reading poems to a YouTube that we were recording that then someone else put together. And that was my choice for the poetry slam. Anyway, for this exercise, I picked Iris. And I don't feel I have anything finished, but I at least started. So they mean the dawn of spring, the irises, purple, lavender, golden yellow, with petals like a crown. They rise from the still cold earth, breaking through to herald the arrival of spring, and they banish the cold and dark of winter.
Oh, lovely. I love that. Did you make a list around the irises, the word iris, or did you do irises?
I did iris, and then I ended up with a whole lot of now, you know, I as the pronoun, and then verbs that start with r. So iris, I risk, I rise, I rush.
Beautiful.
Those things don't fit into what I wrote, but at least it got me thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that's that wild geese. Thanks for putting it in the chat, Leslie. Thank you so much for sharing, even reluctantly. Fabulous. I was going to call on you because I was like, who do I know in this room? Let's see. Anyone else like to share? Jerry?
Okay. Very unoriginal. I have another rose. Along an Adirondack road, a rose grows wild like flame upon the forest floor. Why it chose to grow right there, heaven only knows. Yet there it grows and strikes a pose that halts my roaming toes.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Did Adirondack come up on your list?
No, rose came up on my list. Adirondack is what I'm familiar with.
It's a beautiful specific detail. It's so grounding and lovely. So I wasn't sure if it came up on there. And I love toes as the rhyme with rose. Yeah. Did you have a poem that you loved that got you ignited over poetry?
Well, you know, about 100 years ago, the only poems I was familiar with were pretty much Edgar Allan Poe. So Annabelle Lee was probably the first poem that said, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, there I was in high school and, you know, romantic and writing poetry got you girlfriends. And, you know, of course, if you read the last couple of stanzas of Annabelle Lee, it gets a little creepy, but you have to just forget that. But you know, after that, you know, your influences change. And so, you know, there was Richard Brautigan was a real, you know, turn on for me. And then probably the person that I still, you know, admire so much is W.S. Merwin. And so his book, Finding the Islands, when I found that, it was a really a real revelation. And so Carver's poetry, and now I'm my latest is Billy Collins, his small poems. So yeah, those are just wonderful things.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So afterwards, if there's time, I have a question about a Merwin poem that I'd like to ask you about the form. So if we have time at the end, can I do that?
Yeah, and absolutely. So I thank you. That's such a rich group of writers and poets that you mentioned there. And Annabelle Lee, just the repetition, right? All through that poem and the sound. And Poe is so fantastic for creating that whole otherworldly feeling work. So amazing. Thank you. Anyone else wish to share?
Well, I guess I'll go. In no way have I ever tried poetry, but I will say I love Carl Sandburg and his strength. His poems are strong, and the words he uses are very forceful, and those two were days gone by, thousands of years ago, that I was exposed to poetry. But one of my words was bubblegum. The sweet taste of bubblegum. Gone are the bubblegum days, those troublesome school days. The bubble balloons and makes a pop. The teacher says, behave and stop.
I love the sound in there, the trouble and bubble rhyming in the middle of that.
Yeah, it's pretty pitiful, but
no, not at all.
Best I could do.
Delightful, and bubblegum, such a specific flavor, smell, scent, everything. We all go there, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful, really fun, and lovely to enjoy the Carl Sandburg poetry.
I'm just going to interject another word that I put down, which no one will know what it is, but the word is scucciatrice. And I lived in Italy for 10 years or so, and it's an Italian word, and the word comes to me easier than the English word. And even when I put down this word scucciatrice, I could not remember what it was in English. And you'll never ever guess, because that's a difficult word. And the English word is staple remover.
Wow.
It's amazing, but I can never remember the word staple remover. And yet the scucciatrice, which is ridiculous, that comes easier.
I love that. That's a great just sound word.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Scuccia means to undo, and trice would mean to sew, or, to connect. So, you're just, it's just one of those silly words.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see you string it together with 3 or 4 words.
Well, I won't even try, my dog.
In that same way, the Studebaker, Winnebago, Rutabaga type way. Fun to try to find some English words, 3 or 4 syllable words. So I challenge you. You'll have to send me your freeze-dried poem when you write it. All right. Anyone else with a burning desire to share? Penny, do you have a word you landed on?
We got about 5 minutes left, so why don't you go to questions?
Yeah. Okay. Let me just come back here, and I'll just say before we get to questions, I know this is sort of a
You're frozen. Tanya, at least on my screen, you're frozen.
We can't hear you, Tanya.
Can't hear you, can't see you, or see you move.
And she probably can't hear us either.
Huh.
She's probably chattering away.
Oh, where is she?
Looks like she's gone.
I think we lost her completely.
Oh, boy. Well.
Oh, there she is. There she is. She's back.
She's back.
Zoom knew that we're just about out of time. So all I was going to say at the end here was just that I hope you make your own, if not a little mini booklet, I definitely dedicate a notebook to where you either handwrite out or photocopy and paste in the poems that speak to you through time. And then I gave you a handout that's called Deepening Your Relationship to Poetry. That's really just full of very simple ideas. But one I want you to think about is those poets whose work you really are moved by. Think about conversing with them in your own poems and responding to the questions or the themes that they take up that matter to you. I love so much seeing poets in dialogue with each other. You know, I'm thinking of Terrence Hayes has the sonnets, a beautiful sonnet collection where there's a poem where he takes last lines from other poets and incorporates them into his poem. And let yourself play and be part of the conversation and engage as deeply as you can. So I think it's all on that handout. And I would so love to let you know that if you have questions past our class time together, please feel free to reach out to me with them, or if it's appropriate to pass them to Penny and she passes them to me, or however that works. I'm new to how that happens. But I just so love poetry, and thank you so much for having me tonight. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Tanya. And I wish everybody a good evening, and we'll see you on the 27th. Bye.
Hey, wait, don't go yet. Tanya can go, but we have a little bit of Gil business. So the poll is see if that works. Are you getting the
Yes,
poll?
I see it. I see it.
Okay, well, please fill out your poll.
Everyone should have answered by now. What do you see? How many it'll show you how many people are in the group and how many have answered.
Well, there are
at the top.
12 people. I'm not able to do the poll, so that leaves 11, and there are 9 who have answered.
Okay. Sandra, you're muted.
There's only 10 of us here, so if 9 have answered and you can't, we're done.
Okay.
So how to go out?
We've got Can you see, anybody see the results?
No.
And Penny, you said that I can't lift my button up. I can't let it go. I have to keep it depressed.
Is that true, Sandra?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I'll let it go then, and then I can scroll down.
There should be an option, and I know we went around this before, Bob. There should be an option for you to be able to send it or download the results rather than sharing them on the screen. Because once they're shared on the screen, I don't think there's anything else you can do with them. You know?
I don't see.
It usually automatically sends you a document.
Does it?
Yeah, and I've not tried to open them.
Okay.
I don't see anything, any way to send it.
Well, then let's just trust that it will send a message to board member.
Yeah.
Somebody.
It should be going to Bob.
Okay.
So, shall I unfold them?
You see it? Did it come to you? Did it open? And not open, but it shows you that
I can see the results, but I don't know how to save them.
If you let go, it then sends you a document. But it's
Well, I don't see where to send it. I mean, there's no.
It sends it to you. It knows it's you. No.
Well, there's no send.
Yeah, there's no way that it knows Bob, because it was, Bob's signed on as board member. Maybe the message goes to the email account that we have for Zoom.
It actually pops up in the screen. It's not attached to an email.
Well, in any case, we don't have to hang around.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
In case it isn't recorded, do you want me to tell you what's going on with it?
Yeah. Like, was it favorable?
Okay. Overall presentation, 7 excellent, 1 good, 1 fair. Content relevant, 5 relevant, 2 not at this time, and 2 irrelevant. How effective was the presentation? Who was the presenter in communicating? 8 very effective and 1 effective. How likely are you to recommend SD-WEG? Very likely 8, likely 1. And everybody's already a member, and that's the end of the poll. And if it shows up on the, if it comes in to my board member email, then I'll let you know.
Okay.
Wait, share results now at the bottom, and now we've got something. Oh, download results.
Oh, there you go.
I wonder why it didn't come up before.
So is there going to be a notice sent out about the Saturday event?
Yes.
Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Either tonight or tomorrow morning.
I don't.
If you say download, Bob, I think it'll get downloaded on either on your computer or in the cloud with the Zoom meeting.
Okay.
So one way or the other, we should be able to get it. Okay.
Okay. It says, wants me to sign in with the email and password and stuff like that.
Well, I hope you got it.
That's why I think it'll go to the
first real
guild,
capture
to the guild's Zoom account.
Okay, terrific.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, all.
So thank you all very much. And
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Good job, Leslie.